The eternal question: are we actually live? So let's see. I just need to figure out. Let's go. All right. I see people in the chat. Hello. Thank you so much. Just trying to figure out one quick little bit of tech, and then I'll be good to go. All right. So I am streaming via StreamYard, which appears to be working. The only thing is I need my oh, and you've already found the new emote. Added last night. It's the baby. Yeah, it's pretty neat, right? It works well as an emote. I am just trying to figure out how do I pop out the chat again? Can someone remind me? Whoa. Yeah, I don't think it likes that I'm in. I know there's a button for it somewhere, right? Where it like pops it out into its own little window. Oh, cool. So I can close down my normal Twitch. Yes. Excellent. Okay, cool. Yes, because I'm streaming from StreamYard, I do want my chat open in a new window. Come on. Move tab to new window. Yes. Okay. Perfect. That way I can see when something happens. I can see my StreamYard for when we have special guests dropping in. Excuse me, and all of the things. Well, hi, everybody. It's a little early. I am still waking up to some extent. It was a long night last night, just preparing social media posts and interacting with publishers and things, and talking with guests who are going to be on today. People are busy, even in this time when most of us are doing things from home. It's tough, and I totally understand that. So I invited a lot of people today to pop on as guests. We'll see how many can make it, and that's all fine and good, and we'll have fun with it. So yeah, welcome everyone. It's a little bit earlier than usual for my streaming, but I'm very happy to be here. I was gonna do a whole joke, like start up the stream and be like, well, welcome to Toy Tuesday. Here we go. And like, but I don't know. It just didn't seem as natural anymore once I got everything going. Yes. So thank you all so much. Yes, this is the official. Right with the. I know. I learned it from Jessica doing the bits. This is the official book launch, book release stream. You all know it. You've seen it. It is Naming Your Little Geek. It is out. It's out in stores. I actually just got a review, which is cool. So I have this weird thing that my book, like the earliest sort of like famous and big things that it's been connected with, have been some problematic authors. But anyway, there's a website called MuggleNet. I'm not sure exactly what the URL is, but they have they're Harry Potter related. It's a fan community. From what I've seen, they're very nice people, regardless of what you may think of the author herself. But anyway, they got a copy and reviewed it, which was very nice. The reviewer loved it and really appreciated what I hope most geeks appreciated, for just the amount of research I put into it and all of the details and everything else. So that was really cool to see. I just saw that pop up this morning. There are more copies going out from the publisher to influencers and other cool people. I was hoping those would be out by today, but I don't know. In this world, you never know what's going to happen. So I think some of those are still on their way. So you should be seeing. I'll move my microphone here. Right. No, and yes, and there's Eridance. There's certainly lots of really excellent people in the Harry Potter fandom, and there's plenty there to enjoy, even if you're not a big fan of the author anymore. So yes, it's all good. And yes, I do have. Do I need the microphone so close, or can I leave it? Does it sound okay if it's down here? I don't want to yell too much, but I also want to wave my arms around and be silly like I usually do. I think it should be good. I got stuff falling around, falling down everywhere. Yeah. Oh, somebody asked, how does it smell? It smells like a book, so that's good. I love the smell of books. Oh, I should do. We can't talk about names without. What awful printing. Does it smell like victory? Like victory in the morning? Bam. Oh, man. I got to tell you. So again, like the whole hello, welcome everyone. And yes, as people are coming in, please welcome everyone. Thank everybody so much for being here. Hey. Oh, you know what? So we should talk about just very briefly. We do have an incentive today. I think that should work. If you would like, so the book is on sale everywhere books are sold, everywhere online at least, possibly in actual bookstores, but who knows who's been to an actual bookstore during the pandemic. But if you would like, you can, via my Streamlabs link, purchase a book for $35. So a little bit more than the cover price, so a little bit more than you'd pay through a bookstore. And if you do so, I will stop whatever I'm doing and sign your copy live on stream, and then send it out to you afterward. So it's totally up to you. You can check that out. Now, if you did purchase a copy some other way, and we ever meet up in person, I will happily sign it for you. Write anything you want in it, all the things. So don't take this as like you missed out on something. But yes, I just wanted to offer that to people if you would like, and yeah, have a little bit of fun with it. Yeah, and Pete is here to help facilitate that. We have a web form for the information, but just let me know, because if you want me to put something unique in there for you, I would be happy to do so. Yeah, so I've talked about this before, and I'm sure I will talk about this again. Yes, and I have a stack of books down here for the occasion, and Sharpies and all the rest. So, way back when all this book stuff was happening, we had visions of all of the conventions we'd be going to this year, and how today, this release day, we would be going, we would have 5 book signings throughout Burbank at all of the cool comic book stores, and all the, the neat things we would be doing. The world turned out a little bit differently this year, as things do. So we were thinking of all these neat little gimmicky stuff we could do at convention booths, especially, and things with name tags and all sorts of that. Yes, no, there. Yeah. Oh, I can attend every single convention this year because they're all happening right here on my computer. Yeah, we'll see what happens next year. Hey, Brandon, thank you so much. Yes. Let's see. What are the odds that when my next book comes out, there will be no pandemic happening? Let's hope. Let's hope for everybody's sakes. Yeah. But yeah, like I said, interesting world we live in. My real name is in this book. Scott is in the book, of course. Lots of cool Scots out there. There's I even have a little anecdote about. So growing up, and I've talked about this on stream before, one of my favorite things in the world still, and I know Rabid Wombat at least shares this, some other people as well. Hello. Oh, thank you so much. I'm Chubby Bunny's here. Michelle's, and so many people dropping by. I love it. Thank you so much. Growing up, so Robotech is one of my favorite all-time things, right? My favorite cartoon growing up. Still love it. Every so often they come out with a new toy, if not actually new content. But in the third section of the cartoon, the main character's name is Scott Bernard, which totally blew my mind as a kid because it's my name and Bernard was my father's name. So it's like this character like somehow related to my life. And then interestingly enough, from the first generation, the two squadron mates of the main character Rick Hunter are Max Sterling and then Ben Dixon. Now those are the two names of my sons, Benjamin and Maximilian. Now, for Max, definitely had Max Sterling in mind because he's one of my favorite characters and like an inspiration a little bit for that. Ben Dixon in the show, not as noble and great a character, so that one wasn't one of the main inspirations for my son Benjamin's name, but that's still good. So it looks like, am I not getting notifications with this chat popped out? That's unfortunate. Aha, but if I open up another window with Streamlabs, then I should be good to go. There's always things with tech. But yeah, so the book is out. It is out everywhere the books are sold. It should be actually like at Barnes and Nobles if anybody ever actually goes to a real store ever again. Okay, hold on. I'm just opening up my Streamlabs so I can see what is going on. Yeah, definitely things going on. Let me find. Where do I see this? Okay. All right, here we go. Thank you so much, Erdinsk, and my buddy, my rattling friend, Mukouch. Yeah, if you want something specific, I will be happy to sign and write anything you want in the book. Let me know. You can also enable Streamlabs to notify via chat. That's probably what I should have done. How do I do that? Oh, and thank you, Squirrel, for dropping in and saying hi. I very much appreciate it. Yeah, I probably forgot to turn off something with Streamlabs. I thought I did that. I thought I set up a thing for that. Oh well. So today is going to be, we're just going to have some fun today. I have some silly little activities that we can do that are related to names and fun name things. And yeah, talk about the book, as we go through, talk about sort of how the book came to be, some stuff that I've talked with chat about before, but we'll talk a little bit about what's in the book. May look up some entries, talk about some references, things that I included, some things that I may not have included, which is also interesting. There are lots of reasons why things made it into the book and things didn't make into the book. What you can do with the book, because again, of course, you don't need to be having kids to enjoy this book. That's definitely one thing that's good for it, but there's so many other things. And that was actually, to start on one of these little stories, that was an interesting thing when I was sort of working on how I was going to pitch the book to publishers and or to an agent throughout the process, because it was like, well, it's definitely for people who are going to have kids. So we want it to be a baby name book, but it's also just like cool for, geeks to look up all these great characters and, use it to name anything else, right? Again, I love to talk about this. Like, we're geeks. We name everything. We name our computers. We name our cars. We name our Wi-Fi networks. I'm always disappointed when a Wi-Fi window pops up, usually on my phone when I'm connecting to a network, and I see all these networks around that are all just named, the generic stock name that it comes with. Like, you people have no inspiration, no cool things in your life that you would name stuff. So, but I know us true geeks, we will always name things. So yeah, and then it was like, okay, well, at some point when you are making a book that will actually be published, you have to decide how exactly it's going to be marketed and to whom. It's like, okay, so it's got to be we kind of have to lean in one direction or the other. So it is technically a baby name book, but it's really so much more. Yeah, of course, using it to name all the things in your life, your pets. As I've talked about before, my cat is named Arwen from Lord of the Rings, a name that we got while I was writing and researching. Obviously, we knew the character, but yeah, so that helped with that. And then yeah, just anything, and naming player characters you're making. If you're a GM or a DM, you need lots of NPCs. You can use it for that. So there are lots of things you can do with the book. One of my posts going out today is talking about like the role playing game aspect in particular. It's like it would be a good gift for your GM who's always having to come up with NPC names. So yeah, we were with the name tags. We were thinking of, like I said, gimmicky things that we could do at conventions or signings or appearances, and definitely like the iconic, hello, my name is name badges would be good for stuff. So one thing that I wanted to do, so I'm always on the lookout for, like I said, fun, silly name things. So one of my favorites that popped up around social media a couple of years ago, but it actually just came up in my Facebook memories just the other day. I don't know how many of you saw this at the time or since or remember it, but it's how to make your unicorn name. So you don't all have to tell us your real names, but I would like to see your unicorn name. So that should bring it up. And again, like there are a million of these silly things out there, but I think this one is possibly the best. It's a little complicated. You might need to think about it, but you take every vowel in your name and change every vowel to inkle, I-N-K-L-E. So my example there, so my name, Scott Rubin, becomes Skinklet Wrinkle Binklin. And I think I did that right. Like I said, it's a little complicated when you try to figure out replacing vowels, but not consonants, but you're adding in. Yeah. Anyway, so I want everybody to write and share your unicorn name. As other people said, it sounds, what you end up with sounds more like your more like gnomish names, I think, but yeah. Swokatu, all of your NPCs are Jeff. That's great too. Oh yeah, Pete's and Peter's work real well with this. Pinkle Tinkle. I don't know. It's so goofy, but this one always makes me laugh. This gimmick of the unicorn name. Let's see. Getting notifications over here. So yes, please share your unicorn names, just because they're so goofy. I wish I could change everybody's screen name to their unicorn names. And again, my name, both my names are, my first name and last name are pretty short, so there's not a lot of interesting things. You look at something like my son Maximilian, and that turns into just 30 syllables long with all of these inkles in weird places. Oh yes, Stinklevinkle. That's a good one. Yeah, it's good fun. It's good clean fun. So when I set out to write the book, I wanted to include as many names as I possibly could, right? You want to be, you want to be encyclopedic. You want to be, what, I don't know, what's the word? Complete, the ultimate resource or something. But and I've talked about this before. I will. Your brain turned off. Yeah, it's not the easiest thing to do your so-called unicorn name. It takes a little bit of fiddling, especially if you happen to have multiple vowels in a row, because then you have to do each one as inkle. So you could have inkle. Yeah. It's great. But yeah, as I've talked about before, there were a handful of names that I actually wrote entries for the book that were that essentially that we removed at the last minute in order for me to replace them with something, or to add additional information to an existing entry. Eventually, I just ran out of space. They told me you have to stop writing. You can't add any more things to this book. I would love it if one day if this sells well, of course, we can do further versions, revised and expanded versions. So that would be super cool. Did I end up finding many foreign names in your research? So that's a really good question. Some, for sure, definitely not, not as many as I could have. Oh, thank you so much, King456. Thank you. Um, so I have some anime and manga names in the book. Not nearly as deep as I could have gone. I mean, that you could do easily an entire volume just on anime and manga, maybe a volume for each one of those. But I did try to hit the most famous, the most popular things, right? But not even necessarily every character in those, but like the big ones, especially names that are shared with characters from other places. Naruto. I've never heard that name before. Naruto is in the book. But yeah, so there are some. Oh, there's a good one. Dinkle, Vinklid, Pinklid. I don't know. It always makes me laugh, the unicorn name thing. Yeah, so you will find characters from Akira, from Neon Genesis, from early Brain, right? Dragon Ball, right? So like the most popular ones, definitely their names. Sailor Moon, right? So I did try to hit all of the really big ones. Ghost in the Shell, things like that. So yeah, they're definitely anime and manga names. And then yes, also yes, for 100%, there are names of characters from other parts of the world that are in things that we all know and love. So yes, absolutely, yes, Carlos, everything you just said, yes, those are all in there. And yes, if you type in the name command, we did add a little bit of a delay so that people couldn't keep doing them over and over and over again, but you can do that. Yes. So there are, yeah, and I have, and when you get the book, you'll see, but I did some things where I combined similar or similar sounding names into one entry, depending on how many characters or where all of the names came from. Yeah, just one of the many things I had to do with balancing the research and the writing and how it was all going to show up in the book. But for instance, the name Jean, or the French version, so Jean, and then whatever the added element was. So those ended up being one entry, but talking about all the different forms that it could take. Yeah. But yes, I have, Carlos, I think I have everything that you wrote and many, many more. And where possible, yeah, I'll talk about, like this is the standard version of a name, but then there are other versions that are out there. If there's a name that sounded sort of similar, I'll talk about that too. What comes to mind? I have an entry for Selena, because there are a couple of cool Selena characters out there. Obviously, Selena Kyle, Catwoman. But then in that entry, I also talk about the villain from Men in Black 2, whose name is Serlina, that is seeming potentially a there's a specific term for a name that comes from another name that's like a corrupted version. It's not corrupted, but it's like anyway, there's a term for it. So I talk about how that could be, related to that name, and I get to throw in another character, then talk about somebody else. And then what was the other one? I just had another one in mind, and it just popped out of my head. Oh, so one that was kind of cool, especially if you are a Warhammer fan like I am. So there are not a lot of Warhammer names in the book. There are a few. There are a few Warhammer names in here, but when I wrote the Mortimer/Morty entry, I did mention Mortarion, whose name sounds like it could have come from Mortimer, at least been inspired by it. And a lot of people in the fan community at least refer to Mortarion as Morty. So I thought that was a perfectly good place to sneak in another Warhammer name. No, it's not even derivative. There's a specific name for it. I don't know if I wrote it in here because it was super nerdy. Super name nerdy. Maybe I did. Let me find out. Hold on. Let me go to the variants. I guess I did not, but I did include it in there. Oh no, I'm sorry. There is a Selena entry, but actually I included Serlina in the Serena entry. There we go. Oh, and I guess it is called a corruption. So but that is a technical term. Anyway, I love it / hate it when people come up to me or are talking to me about the book and they say, "Oh, is this little tiny random name or character in the book?" And I have to say, let me look because I don't remember. But I have almost 1,100 name entries referencing more than 4,400 characters. So there's a lot. There's a lot, and I can't remember them all. I have a lot of silly and goofy and nerdy information in my brain, but not all of it. So sometimes I just have to look it up. But I appreciate that people are patient with me and understanding. Oh my goodness, look at that one. Sinkle, Binkle, Stinkles. I love those names. Let's see. So Rabid Wombat and I don't know if anybody else here was watching my Gen Con seminar a couple days ago. I know Rabid Wombat was there. But yeah, that was really neat. I had a good time with that one. So I was just talking about, it was a little bit of a commercial for the book, but I tried to provide content for anybody who was watching that could enjoy it. And I think I did a pretty good job. But we were talking about, and then, so yes. So video game names, David, yes, there is a PayPal option. You will see if you click on that link, or there should be at least. It took forever to set up PayPal through Streamlabs, so that was annoying the other night. I was up till very late. So video games are, as everybody watching knows, video games are not my forte. I'm good at research and looking them up. So for a lot of video games, I tried to include as many video game names as I could, especially again when that name appears in other places as well. But not every video game name is in there, especially if it's just one character who had it, who's not like super widely popular, or at least was when I was writing. Because again, like the writing for this technically ended almost a year ago, I think. I'd have to look it up exactly. Some things I pushed my publisher. I was like, I'd really like to add in this entry, this late edition, whether it was something I had just missed, and there were a couple, some like big names and big characters that I missed, or like a small reference I wanted in the book to connect to things, or a new character that had come out in a new property. So there were some of those I added very late in the game, but I was like, I really want this in there. That includes a couple of characters from Star Trek Discovery, which I absolutely love, and that's a newer thing. Oh yeah. Oh, sorry about the. I thought I had everything set up correctly, but apparently I didn't, and I'm not getting notifications. But we will get this going. I promise you. Although my Streamlabs doesn't seem to be updating right now, but we will definitely get all of the things. Yeah, I don't know why that's not working. Everything looks like it should be working. I have it all set up. I don't know. Yeah, Aaron, I am very excited for season 3 of Discovery. I just recently rewatched seasons 1 and 2, and yeah, I probably liked it more the second time around. I still didn't love the first 2 episodes, but man, episode 3 and on just it was great. So yeah. So yes, and I'm looking forward to hearing from people who use this book to name things. Again, whether it's kids or pets or anything else in your life. I am open-minded to all of the people who will come to me and say, "Oh, you missed this character," or "Why don't you have this one in there?" or "You really should add this book that I've never heard of," or something. And that's all good. That's fine. At one point in the process of writing and researching this book, I had an idea that I would create a website where basically I would point people from the book. I'd say, did I miss something? Come and tell me all about it. And then essentially just use that as research for the next volume or the next book. Just essentially crowdsource all of the entries for the next ones that I missed. Yeah, exactly. Volume 2. I would love to write a volume 2. I would love to write other versions, focus on different things, but we'll see. I will say that there have been some discussions about future books, but it really depends on if this one sells and what happens with this one. Let's see. Cool. Yeah, my social media is obviously blowing up. I'm trying to ignore Twitter right now because I don't know what's happening over there. I am just one person, but you know what? You got to put on it says the complete list of comic, game, sci-fi, and fantasy names. It is a complete list. But the complete list sounds good. Oh, Laureline from whatchamacallit? Rain. Early morning. What's his face? I know the name. For some reason, it is not coming into my brain right this minute. If I looked it up, man, I'm gonna have to look it up. I know a lot of things about a lot of things, but a lot of it is buried deeply in my brain. Oh, the Two Trees of Valinor. That version, that specific one, is not in here. I thought actually you were referring to a different character who is in the book. Yeah. Also, so stuff like the Silmarillion. At some point, I had to draw a line when it came to authors and worlds that are just like, here's the stuff that people that are famous that people know about, and then here's all the other stuff that's in that world that's been written about that most people aren't familiar with. But obviously, people who are super fans and super geeks will know. But yeah, but again, send me, tell me what I missed. I would be happy to add it in future versions. Yeah, like with Warhammer, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I don't think I have any entries that are just specifically about a Warhammer character. I think the only ones I included are names from Warhammer that were also names in other things. So off the top of my head, in the Logan entry, which is obviously mostly about Wolverine, but I talk about that his real name is James. Don't worry, that's all in there. So yeah, there's a Logan in Warhammer, a Space Wolf. I mentioned Mortarion is in there, and then what was the other? Oh, so here's a kind of a funny one. One of the one a Warhammer character whose name you might specifically not expect to be in the book, but the Primarch of the First Legion, the Dark Angels, is Lion L. Johnson, which is one of the goofier Warhammer things because in the early writers of Warhammer, the creators, they they like this poet, this real world British poet named Lionel Johnson. So they just kind of took his name and added an apostrophe and went Yunk. So yes, Lion L. Johnson. So his first name is Lion. But that did make the book because I do have a section talking about various characters that are named Lion and or Lion-O, of course. Got to have my Thundercats in there. So Lion made it into the book. I honestly, everybody that I've heard actually talk about that character refers to him as the Lion, because that's how they talk about it in the book. So it's just so much easier to do it that way. Yeah, Robo Girly Man. Yeah, the Primarch Roboot Gilliman did not make it into this edition. So now Vader is an interesting one. So names that are there are lots of characters out there whose names, the things that they go by, are not actually their names, right? They're titles, they are epithets, they are characters who go by their last names. Sorry, we did have to put in a limiter on how many times. Otherwise, people could just spam that command, and we didn't want. Yeah, sorry about that. So yeah, so in some cases, the entry might not be for necessarily for the way a character is referred to the most. Sometimes it is. It kind of just depends. So for instance, I'll give you a couple of examples. And Star Wars works great for this because there are a billion characters and a billion examples of weird names, weirdly put together names. Akbar. We all know him. We all love Akbar. It's a trap, right? Akbar is not the character's first name. Akbar is the character's last name. Now, does anybody know that who is not a super Star Wars Expanded Universe nerd? No, I don't think so. So I have a entry with Akbar talking about the character, and I explained that it's not his first name. His first name is his other thing. But if you're gonna say name a pet fish after Admiral Akbar, you're gonna name it Akbar, not Gial, his first name, however you pronounce it. His first name is Admiral, exactly. Other ones like Palpatine, right? We've always sort of it's always been a question, like, is Palpatine's first name, is Palpatine's last name? Only very recently have they revealed that Palpatine is the character's last name. His first name is Sheev. Now, does anybody in the real world outside of hardcore nerds know Sheev Palpatine? No. So I have an entry for Palpatine, and I talk about how, yes, his real name is Sheev. But yeah, no. Now, of course, I talk about Anakin, but yeah, Vader. I did not include an entry for Vader. I assume by now, with as much as they've done with the prequels and all of the cartoons and everything, that most people looking at the book will know Anakin and will find or will come across Anakin. That I didn't need another entry for Vader. I could have. And maybe in a future version, I'll split those up and do double entries. Jar Jar is in the book. It's a brief entry. I have a couple of. So one thing I really tried to do with the book is make this a bastion of positivity, right? I'm a pretty positive guy. So when I talk about characters or names, rather, I like to say this is a great name. You know, I try not to say things like, if you name your kid this, your kid's going to be made fun of and picked on the playground. Like originally I had some language like that when I first started writing. I was like, I don't want that. I want this to be like a positive, fun thing. And then I got to some names like Jar Jar and Jabba. I was like, how do I handle these? So those entries are shorter. The Jabba one, I think for Java, I suggest alternate uses for that name. Maybe not children, but maybe, you know, if you have a pet who is portly, or, you know, some kind of silly thing. Uh, I think Jar Jar might be my shortest entry in the book. I think it's only 2 words, but I'll leave that to you to find out when you get the book. Yeah, no, I definitely tried to include as many of those like really nitty gritty details as I could when it came to these characters. Fadir, don't, I think, is one of those 2 words. Please don't. that it's very close, if not it exactly. What was the other one? Oh, so another one that actually tripped me up when I was writing, because again, at least at the start, I really wanted to focus the book on first names, right? That's the whole point of this. And because again, if you get into last names, then again, that's a whole other book, right? But of course, I had to include some of them. So the ones I mentioned, and of course, the biggest one of all is Alien's Ripley, right? Ripley is not her first name. Now, a fair amount of people know that her first name is Ellen. It's not nearly as obscure as the other things, but I gotta have Ripley. And because so many people, even I know several people who have named their daughters Ripley. So I literally know people, human beings named after this character's last name, because that's how she's referred to the most in the movies. So I do have a separate Ripley entry, as well as talking about Ellen in the Ellen entry. So yeah. Same thing with another really interesting one was Uhura, right? Because we in Star Trek, since the beginning, like, we know the character of Uhura, but it always seemed like that was a last name or her only name, and then it wasn't until now this gets really nitty gritty. So there have been lots of Star Trek novels over the years, and in some of them, authors have talked about Uhura's first name. And there were a couple of different versions, and some of the books were more canonical than others. And then eventually, somebody wrote, what is, well, yeah. So eventually, in one of the novels, there was the first name Nyota. And then there was a question of like, well, is this canon? Is it not canon? And then people pushed for it to be canon, and then finally it was announced to be canon. And then, of course, they revealed that in the J.J. Abrams movies. But that addition to the character is relatively recent as far as how long the character has been around. So I do have entries for both, and I do talk about the fact that sort of how that came about. Now, Erdens, you added a Hicks. So Hicks is not in the book. So here's a very interesting thing that I learned about the Alien movies. If you watch the Alien movies and you listen, almost, well, until we get to like the AVP movies, but most of the characters are referred to by their last names in the Alien and Aliens universe. It was an interesting thing researching what these characters' first names were to include them in the book, because of course I wanted to include as many of these characters, obviously the main characters, as I could. And what I found out is that for many of them, they don't have first names. There were no first names in the script. Later on, they would. Oh yeah. No, I'm just responding to things that I see pop up. In several cases, it would, like, these characters wouldn't have names until the novelization came out, and then the novelist would either invent a first name, or they would go back and ask like, hey, what's this character's first name? And then they'd be like, just name it, give the character the same first name as the actor who played the character. So there's all sorts of weird, and then sometimes there are issues and discrepancies and contradictions. So that's a whole thing. But yeah, so you might reading through the book, you might find some interesting things about like, oh, I never knew that that was the first name of, Hicks or something like that. There were a couple of instances in doing research for the book when I found characters, again, who you might only know by a last name or a nickname, and then there are vigorous arguments as to what the character's real name is or real first name. And a big one is Short Round from Indiana Jones. Lots of discussions about that one. Lots of like, well, in this interview they mentioned this, but in this one they said this name. In this novelization, in this comic book, they're just all over the place. So for stuff like that, I did my research, and then I picked what seemed most likely to me, or what seemed to have the most official reason for existing. So for Short Round specifically, I believe the name is Juan. Let me look that up to be sure. Because offhand, I do not remember exactly. Let's see here. Wallace, Wally, Walter. Yeah, Juan. So, well, at least the main source that I could find listed him as his real name being Juan Lee. Obviously, his nickname being Short Round or Shorty. So yeah, I included as many references as I could for these characters. I did have to cut it off at some point. So for I think I mentioned this before. So for comic book characters, to make it in the book, even as a reference, you had to have appeared in. I arbitrarily gave it 10 issues, or be like a major character in an event. So even if you just appeared to something major that people remember and then died or faded away, that's fine. You still made it, but 10 issues or more for minor characters. So you'll see some of the entries. I'll show you what it looks like for Walter here. So the Walter list of references right here is pretty long. A lot of Walters. And that's even separate. I have a separate entry for Wally and Wallace. So those are 3 different entries with names that can overlap. Also Wade, of course. So yeah, some of them, like, there are just a ton. I believe the longest list of references for characters with the same name is William, and that's even separating out Billies, and all of that stuff. There are a ton of characters named William in geek media, however you want to call it. Wally. So again, I did not include standard Disney characters in this book. And I've talked about this before too, that when I set out to write the book at the very beginning, I was like, okay, I need some limitations on just how many properties, how many characters I'm going to include. So early on, I decided I am not going to include the Simpsons, because I mean it's certainly loved by geeks, and it's sort of like geek adjacent, but it's not super geeky. I mean, it is, but Simpsons has so many characters, and it's just like, I don't know. I like I said, I had to draw the line somewhere, and I didn't want one property to have a billion things. Although, obviously there are lots of Star Wars characters, lots of Star Trek characters. But so there are no Simpsons in the book. I think I do obliquely refer to a couple of characters when, when those names are used for other characters. And then, like I said, when I started writing this book, 6.5 years ago or so, I said, I'm not going to include Disney characters. Number one, because there are a million, right? You get into every Disney princess movie and everything else, so many characters. Number two, Disney is especially litigious. If they wanted to come after me for some silly reason, I don't want to have, a big chunk of things being Disney. And then, as I like to talk about, by the time the book came out, well, all of Star Wars is Disney, all of Marvel is Disney. So as it turned out, quite a few characters in this book are Disney characters. But so you will not find Wall-E in this book, or I think I do have a. Again, like sometimes I'll make little in the text. I'll make references to some other characters who don't have an actual reference listed in the book. I did see a question in there. Where was it? Jedge, which character did you have the most fun researching? That's a really good question. There were a lot of rabbit holes that I ended up going down. Just endless things. There were some properties that are like Alien where the majority of the characters were only referred to by their last name, and I'm like, there's got to be information on this somewhere. So I spend a lot of time on things like that, like trying to hunt down movie scripts to see if first names were in there, or trying to find like the right nerd to talk to who might know that information. Thankfully, I know a lot of nerds. I'm friends with a lot of geeks who are really into some of these properties. So, what was one of the ones that I was just thinking of? The movie The Black Hole, which is as old as I am. It is a Disney movie, but this one did make it because it is science fiction, bordering on horror, and it's rad, and I have had to include it. But that movie, there are space military characters, and they're referred to by their last names mostly. And I was like, I know these first names are out there somewhere. I gotta find these. I gotta track these down. And I think I found most of them. What was another one? I just had another one in mind, and it fell out of my head. Another great one is Big Trouble in Little China, because there are some sort of like there's some very normal names in that book, or in that movie rather, and then there are some very odd names, not just because they're not English names, but just they're like some weird names in there. But one of the more interesting ones I found out was that Lo Pan, his first name is David, and I'm like, okay, that's really mundane. I mean, David's a great name, and I talk about that in the book. But I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. And then again, I've talked about this before for you all who are my usual viewers. But the thing that I liked the most about doing the research for this book was when I would come across two or more characters with the same name that were from wildly different sources. Error connecting to remote server. That's not a message I want to see coming back from Nightbot. Uh-oh. Did something break? Did you break my Nightbot? Who broke Nightbot? Teal'c is absolutely in the book, by the way. Nightbot is being a butt. I hope so. I hope those commands start working again. I love those commands. But yes, so names of characters. Okay, I guess maybe it didn't like the apostrophe. That should work though. There are definitely some names in the book with apostrophes, and those were a little tricky sometimes to get working in things. But yeah, again, like finding names that were in very different sources, but yet somehow the characters had commonalities. That was really cool. And again, like I'm not assigning any sort of purpose to that, right? Nightbot doesn't like Stargate. Nightbot is all about Star Wars and Star Trek. Yeah, so that was cool. Or characters who have very similar names but are very different, like opposites. That was also interesting. So, for instance, I will give you one example of that. I have an entry for Ducat. Now, Ducat, depending on your specific flavor of science fiction, there are two characters, two famous sci-fi characters named Ducat. One was in Star Trek Deep Space Nine. The other was in Babylon 5. So they were two shows that were on the same time about space stations. So the shows had a lot of similarities and commonalities, and a lot has been written and talked about how that all came about, and that one really wasn't stealing from the other. They were two totally separate productions and all this other stuff. But yeah, they both had a character named Ducat, spelled slightly differently. One has an H in it, the other one does not. But the characters are very different and come to very different ends. So I thought that was pretty cool. Hold on, let me check my. All right, I can leave the rest. Yeah, so that was neat. I've mentioned some other ones before. Characters named Gordon, for some reason, are exceptional in one or more fields, but again, several of the characters, not necessarily all of them. So Gordons are exceptional characters, but they don't put their gifts to good use when we first meet them. They sort of they don't really care about trying to excel. They don't have a lot of ambition, and then events conspire to get them to embrace their abilities and their talents. So we have that with most recently. Oh, thank you so much for the host. Welcome, Cameron. So most recently in the show Orville, right? We have. Yes. So in the Orville, Gordon Malloy is the helmsman of the Orville, and he is arguably the best pilot in the fleet. But he kind of doesn't care and kind of messes around. But his captain gets him to step up and really embrace his skills. And then yes, of course, Gordon Freeman in the Half-Life series, a brilliant scientist. And when we first meet him, he is essentially working as a janitor. There are some other characters like that too. Wesley is another one that a lot of Wesley characters that when we first meet them, they just have a boring normal life, or at least they really want that, and then they're forced out of their comfort zone into doing something extraordinary. Gordon Ramsay, yep. geek character icon Gordon Ramsay for the book. Yeah, so though I really got a kick out of that kind of stuff, discovering, like I said, characters either that have similarities in very different properties, sometimes in completely different genres, or characters that are like diametrically opposed but yet have the same name. Those kind of things were really cool. All right, we've got some new people, so I want to know. Oh, I should write the command out correctly. My most favorite name game. Give me your unicorn name. Now, like I said, this went around on social media a few years ago. Maybe it's been repeated since, but this never fails to make me smile and laugh. Probably better as gnome name, because it definitely does seem more gnomish than unicorn. But unicorn's good. Ooh, Inkled Ginkler. I like it. I like it. I told my kids that they will actually get to be on my stream today. So after I'm on here for a few hours, we're gonna take a break, and then we'll be on Facebook. So mainly so that the kids can be on, and they are very excited. Because I know a lot of you have watched before, but often when I'm doing my shows, my children are just off screen. wanting my attention, wanting to be part of the action, but Twitch says no. Jinkle Stinklin. Ginkle. It's so great. The unicorn name thing it's so much fun. There was an image for it, but it works just as text. Yeah, the hey buddy. That's usually as much as I can interact with my children while I'm streaming. Yeah, my Streamlabs it doesn't want to give me notifications. Let's see, what else did I talk about? Hold on one second. Yeah, so normally Norsemeat, I am facebook.com/Norsemeat. Yes. I'm Norsemeat everywhere. Anywhere you go. And that should all be set to public for today's events. So yeah, obviously lots of my favorite characters for sure made it into the book. And you'll notice in the book that there are definitely some properties that may have more of a represent. They might be overrepresented as far as relating to the wider geek population. But you know what? It's my book. I'm allowed to do that. So yes, I do have every main character from Robotech. Lots of characters from the Green Lantern corner of the DC universe, but all of the main characters, of course. I'm trying to think of the other ones. There's a show called Winx Club. I don't know if anyone's heard of it. It's technically for girls, but we don't go for that kind of thing here. It was an Italian cartoon ported over into English, but it's about a group of fairies from different planets who go on adventures, and I really liked that cartoon, so I put those names in the book. And there's some really great names there too, so that was good. They definitely Dune characters in the book, of course. Yeah, so that's another thing. So you'll flip through the book and you'll see like very serious sounding names, and then you'll see some very silly names that, like, wait, that's a name? Yeah, some character out there had that name. Oh, I have a visitor right now. How's it going? Good. Are you very excited to be on the show in a little bit? Yes.
I think Max is also.
Max is also very excited, yes. What are we going to do on the stream later?
Eat cake.
Oh, I told my kids, you can't have a party without cake. So we'll see how that goes. Yeah. So yeah, definitely lots of Robotech. That can be right, Pete. That was a weird time, right? There were two cartoons about, well, one was technically fairies, the other one was witches, but it was a weird time for people. Lots of things. Oh, really? That's cool, Erdens. Yeah, going through, you end up, well, in my situation, especially working at Geek and Sundry and then Hyper, it's like, yeah, I know people who have worked on some of these things that I'm that I'm writing about, or I've met them at least. So that's always cool. But yeah, I mean, like, honestly, you name it. We could have put in hold on, one of my guests is here. Let me add her. Give me 1 second.
Hi.
Hello. Can you hear me?
I can. Can you hear me?
All right. I can. Let me put in my other earbud. It is guest time. Chat, welcome. Megan.
Hi,
good
everybody.
friend of mine.
How's it going?
It's going great.
Good.
I woke up nice and early this morning after having very little sleep. but I'm very excited. Well, let me add, where is it? Is it brand? I think it's brand. I have to rebrand myself. Show display names. There we go. At least I want your name on there somewhere. And I can turn it off later. So how are you?
Oh, I'm good. I'm also tired.
Yeah.
You'd think during a pandemic you'd get way more sleep.
Nope. Yep. I am certainly in that boat that I am busier than ever, it seems like, somehow.
Yeah. I totally agree with you.
Yes. So Megan, we are talking about my book, Naming Your Little Geek. It is out in stores today.
So cool.
What's your relationship with your name?
With my name,
Yeah.
my name. So my full name is Megan Riley, or my middle name, Megan Riley Caves Callerman, actually. But Megan Riley is from the book The Thornbirds, apparently.
Okay.
So it did come from a book.
There you go.
Either going to be that or Aaron McKenzie, and I have no idea where Aaron McKenzie came from. So, yeah. Oh, by the way, I see people asking for my social. It's just at Megan James, my name right there. You can find me on Twitters. But yeah,
Cool.
that's where my name came from. Which I still don't know much about the Thornbirds, except if any of you guys watched what's it called? Late Night with Seth Meyer right now. He's constantly has a Thornbirds book somewhere on the set, and it was like a joke for a long time. So I'm always like, oh, there it is, the Thornbirds.
There you go. That's cool.
Yeah.
Now your name has I wouldn't say a unique spelling, but certainly not the most common spelling. So how was that growing up, and did you always have to correct people?
Yeah, I still have to correct people, which is fine. Although more and more nowadays, I guess in my generation, more people are just have that H in there. Supposedly, I think it's the Welsh spelling of it, maybe, or the.
Okay.
I know it's either a Welsh name and it's the Irish spelling, or it's an Irish name and it's the Welsh spelling, something like that. But
some sort of combination.
Yeah, it's really weird. But I actually had, there were two people I went to school with in Oklahoma who spelled, I had one girl in my class, we went through school together the entire time, and she spelled her name exactly like mine, which I was a little like, but I want to be more unique.
Right. No, you have a slightly different spelling. You want to be the unique one.
Yeah, exactly.
I get that.
Yeah, but now it doesn't seem so unique. It kind of seems like Megan is the main one, and then Meghan is kind of the second main one. So
Sure.
What can you do? Except I do get a lot of people, I mean, mostly jokes, but saying Meghan at me. So I get that, which is fun.
You must love that.
I do. It's great. Yeah.
So I do have a Megan entry in my book. I don't think I came across any characters with your spelling specifically. I have Megan's Megan. There's a Megan with Meggan, and then there is Miss Martian, whose name is McGann. So that's M'Gann. So a little bit differently, but yes, in my research, Megan, the Megan is Welsh as a short form for Margaret originally, which is interesting. Yeah.
I've also heard Maggie as a kind of like nickname for Megan, which I think is more a nickname for Margaret. So
right. Yeah.
Makes sense. Yeah. Its names are absolutely fascinating.
Yes. Yes. As I've done a lot of research on them.
Yeah, I bet you found all that. I think it's interesting too because people pronounce them all very differently.
Yep.
And even I get Megan a lot, especially where I grew up in Oklahoma. Megan, but it's Megan. But there are Megans. I've even seen an Maygin before, which I was like, yeah,
sure. Hey, why not, right?
Yeah, exactly. Which is crazy. So, yeah.
Now I know that over the years you've had various pets. So what are some of the names that you've chosen for your pets, and what is your current one?
Well, growing up, I tended to name my pets after food items, which by that you can tell what it is I am interested in.
Sure.
But we had a lot of pets actually growing up. We had, we had one cat who I named Velvet because he felt like velvet, of course. Just
appropriate, sure.
Name it what it is. We also had one cat that my mom had who she named Rocky after the Rocky Mountains. And then she died when I was very little. And I was like, I loved that cat. I was like, we have to get another one, and we'll also name her Rocky. And my mom was like, can we just name it let's name her like Raquel Welch. So at least it's, a little friend. So that was her name. And then we had poor cat. We got one cat from we were out in the like Walmart like garden area, and we heard this little tiny meow, and so we followed it, and we found this little tiny adorable kitten, and they were like, "This is the only girl from the litter of males. Do you want the cat?" And we were like, "Okay, I guess we have to take it."
Sure.
And so we named the cat Marta because Walmart, and then found out it was a boy. His name to, I think, Mel Gibson. And then I was like, no, he's got to be Fox Mulder. But also my mom wanted to name him Harrison Ford. So his name was Fox Mulder Harrison Ford. And we called him, poor thing. Yes. He was very confused. And then I had rabbits, and they were all food names. It was chocolate, pepper, ginger. I had 2 chocolates. Yeah, this is
oh,
a
wow.
thing.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and then we had a dog named Honey. So you can see.
There you go. Yeah.
We had rats in college. In college, I got more sophisticated, finally, kind of. But we had a rat named Coraline from the book movie of Neil Gaiman. We had a rat named Nefertiti. We had one named Starbuck. Not actually after the Battlestar Galactica character, but because my husband's mom, whenever we bought the rat, she kept going up to my husband's Starbucks cup. So she was like, she became Starbuck, and it just stuck. And
that's great.
One named Rosalind, simply because my roommate at the time had a rat named Zoe, and it was such a perfect name. And we were like, well, Rosalind, we can call the rat Roz. So that was close enough. And then currently I have a cat somewhere about here. Her name is Zuko. Which actually, so I don't know if you guys know sort of kitten communities, like rescue kitten communities, which I now know a lot more about. They have a tendency when they pull in a new litter, they will name the litter like a kitten lady is one of my favorites. She's in San Diego, and she has a current litter named after the Twin Peaks people. So she basically goes, I think this one is Harry. This one is Lucy, and they're so cute. Oh my God, follow her. Anyway, but that's kind of the same thing for my cat. So her and her brothers were found stuck between 2 fences and without their mom when they were babies. Okay. And there were actually 4 of them. One of them unfortunately died, but they were in very, very bad condition, and they took them to the vet, and she was basically the woman who found them and who cared for them named them after Last Airbender characters based upon their personalities. So she does have a brother named Boomy and a brother named Toph, and she's Zuko. And her name very much fits her. And when we got there, we were like, we're going to keep Zuko because we love that show. I love that character, and it's great.
It's just right. Yeah.
It is truly her personality. Zuko is truly her personality.
That's awesome.
Bend fire. I mean, I would believe it if she did that. So
that's great. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, obviously, like there's so many great characters that make such great names for animals and other things in your life. Now, are you one of the geeks who likes to name other things like your car, your computer, things like that?
Yes, indeed. Actually, we just got a new computer, and so this is one thing that I've never done before. We're sharing a computer.
Ooh.
So yeah, so kind of. Although really, it's just been me using it, but we're sharing a computer. And so we named it Gemini. So it's like cool. But usually, what I like to do is I do the same thing with RPG characters. Actually, I really like to find a name, like the meaning of a name. So like I had a phone. That I had like a red case for, and I was like, I'm gonna name it Ember for it being red. Sure. I named my first iPod Erilyn, which the meaning of it meant with music. So I was like, perfect. And let's see, I had one little iPod named Cody, which I think meant like helpful or something like that. So I always like to do that. But yeah, I love naming electronics. So I've had a computer named Rose, a computer named Isabella.
What?
Just
Okay. Just all
thing.
the things. Yeah, that's great. Now you don't have to reveal it if you don't want to, but have you considered names for future children? Or are there some things that you've thought about or thought might be cool? Well, whether serious or not.
I feel like throughout my life, I've gone, oh, I really like this name. One day my future children will be named this. So I definitely have had them in the past, but I don't even remember half of them. I did like Isabella a lot. A lot of the names for my computers have been names that I like, or Isabel. But I don't know. I strongly suspect one day when we have kids, it will be like, okay, what is the thing we currently really like?
Sure.
But I definitely like Rose is one I've always liked, which, Doctor Who, I can at least tie it to that.
Of course, yeah.
Which is a big deal for me. I think the most extreme version would just be naming a child doctor. Can you imagine?
Hey, there you go. I have heard stranger names for real human children.
Right? Me too. Man, I was watching something and one woman's name was Spanky. I don't know if that was her real name, but it was Spanky.
Wow. That's great. Yeah. So you've played a bunch of really interesting characters on different shows and things. What are some of the coolest names of characters that you've had?
Ooh, I like a lot of my names for characters. So one of my favorite characters who I actually have this tattoo for, from Wild Cards over at Saving Throw Show. It's a supernatural Western, and I created a soiled dove huckster character. So her name is Rosaline Byrne. She's Irish, and so I wanted to find a cool Irish name that, there's always Saoirse, which it's like, and I actually made that her middle name. So I was like, I don't want it to be Saoirse. That's too, common Irish in my mind. So I was like, Rosaline, what a cool sounding name. And I can be nicknamed Rose.
Sure.
Let's see. I had another character named Adelaide Blackwood, who was actually a character before. She was also a Wild Cards character, but before I had her there, because I was like, I created a kind of nerdy character for the Secret World game. The Savage Worlds game that we adapted the Secret World. So if you know the Secret World, it's an online MMO that's very Lovecraftian. And I was like, Adelaide is such a almost goofy name because I wanted her to be like, she loved magic, especially Harry Potter. And then all of a sudden she actually means magic. So she wanders around trying to cast Harry Potter spells to see if they work. So
that's
that
cool.
was her. Yeah, I had a character who was an Aasimar. I always forget the name, but the angel in essentially race in Dungeons and Dragons. And her name was Ava, but her full name was, what was it? It was Adelphi something. It was Ava were her initials because she had this ridiculous long angelic name.
Sure.
And she was a mess. I have over at Dragons and Things Twitch, playing in a Pathfinder game that's not currently on air. I had a character named Grace Holiday because I based her sort of she's like a sailor, and I based her personality off of Doc Holliday.
Okay. That must be fun.
Yeah, I was like, this is going to be fun. And she's Scottish, so I had to learn the Scottish accent for it.
Oh, no.
I obviously can't very well now. Anyway, I have a character who is she's one of my favorite characters. Her name is Gadget. She's a gnome. Well, now Dark Lanterns over on Wizards of the Coast YouTube. It's a pre-recorded show, a Saving Throw, and it's an Eberron show. And so she's actually been in a, for the Eberron show, we adapted her to a, why can I not think of it? They're the people that it starts with like an A and they make things. Anyway, I'll think of it.
Alchemists?
It's not an alchemist, but it's similar. It's
okay.
It's a there's a little bug on my desk. It's a specific
artificer?
Yes, that's it. Okay. Artificer. Yes. I see Aaron didn't.
Yeah, Aaron's got it. He got it.
Yes, you got it. Anyway, but her full name is Hella Twidget Voltwocket Turin, because gnomes, every person in their family gives them a name, so their names are really long.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
that's
so
a neat convention.
She goes by Gadget because she's kind of a grumpy little gnome who hates everyone and likes gadgets more, and she sounds like Harley Quinn. So she's a mess as well. There's a theme, if you can tell in my characters. I have a character currently over on Dragons and Things named Miyuki. Miyuki is a kitsune, so which is I believe it's Japanese. I don't remember culture. It's sort of like this fox spirit, but in Pathfinder, they are they're a fox, like a magical fox that can switch into a human. So they're technically fae in Pathfinder. So but I wanted to give her a name that was specific to, kind of to where the cultural character came from.
Inspiration, yeah.
And then she's a bard who does beat poetry.
as they do, yeah.
As they do, yeah. She's insane. So I think those are the main ones I can think of off the top of my head. But often I will either name a character either a name that evokes the energy or the tone or the sense of the character in my mind, or I'll name them based on like a meaning. I think my very first D&D character's name was Jerica, and she was a fighter, and I think Jerica meant like warrior or strong or something like that. I don't remember. But I love that's always whenever I build a character, my husband's always like, "Oh, the name is going to take forever."
It's the most important part.
It is, and actually, we're getting ready to start a new campaign, which we're announcing on Friday, and I'm very excited about the name, but I cannot share it.
Sure.
But yeah,
that's cool. I especially like when you were talking about the Rosaline character, about how you because one of the things that I really love especially when I'm talking about names is the idea of it purposefully giving a character or a pet or a kid a longer form name that then you'll have options with shortening, with nicknames, whatever you want to do. So both of our children, obviously Benjamin and Maximilian, are longer form names that have very obvious, easy, short forms or nicknames. But now you have options. You can do whatever you want with it.
Yeah, I do kind of like that. Also, I mean, yes, of course, with a child, but also naming a character. Sometimes even like I never really used Saoirse for Rosaline, but it was nice to have it there because it kind of makes her more real in my mind, in a sense. So even though some people make fun of me for having 3 names, I still think it's fun.
Hey, and again, like I have a very short name. I'm just Scott, so I don't get to do any of those fun things. But my favorite example of that I always like to give is, because I mean, you, especially as a parent, you can give you can put whatever you want on the kid's birth certificate and then just call them something else. So if you like the name Laura or any form of that, go for broke. One of the characters I really love from the Dragonlance world is the Golden General, and her full name is Laura Lanthalassa, but they call her Lorana, and there are easier short versions. But put the whole thing on the birth certificate and call her whatever you want later.
It's very true. It's funny when my husband and I got married, we took each other's last names. So we both became Caves Callerman, even though my stage name is Cave, my SAG name is Cave. So I just kept it. Anyway. And we were like, this is great. It's got to be so much fun. And we went and switched our names. And then, you get on a phone call and someone's like, okay, what's your name? And you go, it's Megan Caves Callerman. And they go, what? And you're like, it's this really long thing. So there's definitely something to be said for short names as they fit on documents, and people don't go, why is there a hyphen here?
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, it's kind of fun to have the ability to have, like, you can go, well, my name is actually, like, I have a friend, he goes by Dom. His name is Dominique. Yeah, it's one of those things. It's like, that's kind of a cool, it's actually his middle name. That's kind of a cool name.
Yeah.
Goes by
Sure.
Dom. Yeah, I don't know. I always think it's interesting too, because some people go by their middle names. And there's a part of me that kind of wishes I had chosen to go by Riley, because that just seems like such a fun name. I didn't.
But you always have it there in case you want to make that a new persona for you.
Right? Yeah, I can be Riley instead.
Yeah.
It's less common than Dragon, so I think.
So you talked about, you have, obviously your last name is hyphenated now. Have you ever had a character that you've used that has had like an apostrophe in the name, like mix it up with any sort of weird punctuation?
I might have. Not one that I can think of. I feel like honestly, Ava, I don't even remember the whole thing. Adelphi.
Sure, yeah, with the really long ones.
Yeah, it's like Adelphi. I don't know. I just remember Adelphi was part of it. But that was probably the closest to something like that. But mostly I don't do that because I want to be able to pronounce it. And those names, there's so many names, especially playing Dungeons and Dragons, where you're like, what's your name again? Right.
Mm-hmm.
What is it? I feel like I've gone the other direction. I'm like, I'm going to be Grace.
Right, the simple ones.
One can pronounce.
Yeah, the other day I was talking, or actually I did a Gen Con seminar. It was very official. It was fun, but I was talking about naming things, anything, kids, characters, all of this sort of thing. And one of the examples I had was an Eberron book that I was showing. It was the old Dragons of Eberron book, but especially the dragon names are like, they're all 10 syllables long. They've got Z's and X's every third letter. It's crazy.
They're almost unpronounceable.
Yes. Cool. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for stopping by and chatting with us.
Good luck.
We're celebrating the book. It is out as of today, and thanks so much.
Yeah. Sure, it's fun to talk about names.
Yes, and everybody follow Megan. She's got some really cool shows, and she's just a great person. Been a friend of mine for a long time now.
That's true. It's been what, like 8 years? 9 years?
It's been something like that. Yeah, it's been a while.
That's crazy. All right. Well,
we're still young though.
Right. Still, I think. Am I still young now? Well, have a good rest of your launch. It's very exciting.
Thank you so much. Thanks a lot, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Okay, that's good.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.
And it looks like we have another guest coming in right now. Let me add her to the stream.
Hello.
Hello.
Oh, I'm going to zoom my camera out. My face is like gigantic.
Boom.
Hey, there we go.
Good morning.
Good morning, Scott. How are you?
I'm great.
Excellent.
I'm a little tired, but
I can imagine.
I'm doing well.
I can imagine.
How are you this morning?
Good. Yeah, we're just like gearing up for the Ven launch tomorrow. I'll be in the studio later this afternoon, evening. And our show starts tomorrow, so that's all very exciting.
That is. It's a big week for both of us.
I know. I really like the frame on your that you've set up on StreamYard here with your Warhammer self. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, hey, it's cool. A good friend of mine, Darrow, made that. So
oh, wow.
I figured I gotta use it everywhere I can.
It looks fantastic.
So we're talking names a little bit. Obviously, promoting the book. So
yes.
Tell us a little bit about you and your relationship with your name.
Okay. Well, I can actually tell you exactly what my relationship with my name is. So, obviously, my middle name is Carmine, which is my grandfather's sister's name, who unfortunately died very young. She was like 18 when she passed away. Oh, wow. So she was never in my life, but I have her name as my middle name. But my first name, Emma, I was not going to be Emma up until about 2 or 3 weeks before I was born, I think. My parents would have liked to name me Fiona, which is like a very, like Scottish Irish kind of name. However, they thought Fiona Fife would be a little much with the alliteration.
Sure.
So they wanted to name me Heather, Heather, of course, being a flower that blooms all over the Highlands in Scotland.
Yep.
My dad is Scottish, if people don't know. But then my mom was like reading when she was pregnant, and she reread Jane Austen's novel Emma. And so I am named Emma after Emma Woodhouse from the novel.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's great. I don't know that a lot of people have those, that many specific.
Yeah,
like,
I know. Isn't that funny? But yeah, I do.
Now, you obviously have played a wide variety of characters across lots of different shows and things.
Yeah.
So what are some of the favorite names of characters that you've played?
Oh God. So Scott, you don't understand. Like I like have an existential crisis anytime I play like an MMO or something and I have to name my character. It truly, if character creation takes 5 hours, 2 hours of that are me trying to come up with a name.
Because names are so important. Yes.
They're so important. You're like, you have to live with them forever. No, it's so funny. So obviously on the Star Wars RPG that I did for Hyper, I was sort of like reclaiming names of, number one, a really awful character from a book by Anne McCaffrey, the Dragon Riders of Pern series, which was sort of my gateway drug, if you will. Aside from like all the Black Cauldron books, because like I read all of those, but then like I really remember my like real gateway drug into fantasy and sci-fi being the Anne McCaffrey books. But the character Kilara from Dragon Riders of Pern is horrible. She's an awful, awful person, but she has a cool name, so I stole her name. Yeah. And then her last name I stole from a boss who I hated. So you were redeeming both names. I did. I reclaimed two names, but no, I love. I think my roommate actually named one of her most recent D&D characters Menely, who's another character from the Dragon Riders books. So those are some faves. I'm trying to think. Like, obviously, I play a lot of Japanese video games and stuff. But I will say I had a real obsession with the name Claire for a long time, which was very directly related to Claire Redfield from Resident Evil 2, who's still probably my favorite Resident Evil heroine, though I really like Jill a whole lot as well. But yeah, let me think. I mean, as you say, like there's really quite a range. Yes. I think I have a real connection. Like, I feel like I'm seeing some people talk about some like, oh, I see. Oh, it's the Nightbot. I was like, I saw the name Ramsay, which made me think of Game of Thrones. Yeah. And like, listen, I have a real issue with the fact that they decided to take Ariane Martell out of the show because she's one of my faves. And also I like the name Ariane a lot. Sure. And let's see, I'm just like going through the gamut in my brain. Yeah. So those are some that are coming to the top of my head. I feel like too, as far as like Game of Thrones goes, because like I do really love those books. I've got like a real love for the character of Sansa Stark. And that's, I say it Sansa. It's subject to interpretation. Sure. Yeah, of course. Yeah. Cool. Well, actually, a lot of the names that you just described are in my book. Not all of them. I don't have Kylar, although I do have a lot of I have some characters from Pern. Yeah, so actually, and that's actually kind of an interesting thing because I have Lessa. Yeah, right? Lessa, yeah. Of course. I have a combined entry that talks about Lessas and Lissas because there are several from different works. So I had to remember which version it was. And then what I did for the male Dragon Riders is I have one entry that's basically about how those names work. Yes, because it's essentially fascinating. You can take and it's also it's a little bit inconsistent. It is. A little bit inconsistent. It's a lot inconsistent. But yeah. Well, any dude who's not a dragon rider, like you could potentially include as just a name like Jaxum, even though Jaxum is a dragon rider, but he wasn't supposed to be because he's like a lord holder. Yeah. Yeah. So and that's a good one. And and on my Gen Con seminar the other day when I was talking about naming things, like one of the cool things you can do with names is elongate them, right? Come up with a longer version of a cool name, or you can
cram them together and shorten them, just like Anne McCaffrey did with her male dragon riders.
Yes.
What was I? Oh, and then I also wanted to ask you, what were some of your pet names for your pets, I should say?
Oh my goodness. Okay. Yeah. So my cat in college was named Millie because it was a weird coincidence where like that was the name that they'd given her at the shelter. And we had just finished doing the musical Thoroughly Modern Millie when I got her. So I was like, I feel like this is meant to be.
It was meant, yep.
But my current cats are named Light and Elle after the characters from the manga Death Note. Sure.
Fantastic names. And actually, both of those are in the book.
Really?
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Death Note was definitely one that my book is not heavy into manga and anime, but
sure.
I did want to include like the most popular, the most famous ones, especially if they're just really cool names. Or if names, multiplied in other places, but
totally.
But I have. So L, just the letter L is in the book.
The letter L.
Q is obviously in the book.
Yes. You gotta have Q, letters.
Man. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, I know people. I know people are typing in the name commands for Nightbot, but there is a little bit of a delay, so they don't get spammed too much.
Yeah.
But yeah, cool.
I know I'm seeing some of the names in there too, like Rico, which I immediately associate with Starship Troopers, even though it's like Johnny Rico.
Sure. Yeah. And that was an interesting thing. I've been talking about that this morning, dealing with characters who, we all know by their last name, by like an alternate name. So in the book, sometimes I include the last names when that's like the only way that the vast majority of people know the character. So I do have some entries that are last names, but for the most part, I try to just do first names. It was a balancing act for sure.
Yeah.
Trying to figure out how best to handle that.
Yeah.
So now you don't have to reveal this if you don't want to, or if you don't have any answers, but have you ever thought of potential names for future children?
I mean, there was definitely a time where I felt very strongly about a girl being named Claire. But now I also think about Lydia, which of course, like Lydia Dietz, and for boys, I really love the name Ethan.
Okay.
That's like the first one that I can really think of. I also think for girls a little bit about Virginia, because that was my mom's name. And also there are a lot of women in my family who have the middle name of Rose, because Rose was my grandfather's mother's name.
Okay.
And my grandmother, like her daughter-in-law, my mom's mom, was obsessed with her. Like she used to talk about her all the time when I was a little kid. Like I never met her. She'd passed away before I was born. But yeah, my grandmother, Jenny, Virginia, she would talk about Rose all the time. And like literally my grandfather always used to say that if my grandmother ever left him, he would find her at his mother's house. Like they were really, really close.
Yeah, my family there was something like that in 3 generations back. It was like he was like the favorite of all the family. They all loved him. They all wanted to name everybody after him. It was a funny thing like that in families.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. I don't know. I think like for me, I think more about like I think I'm a little more creative in terms of going with like it was so funny like naming the cats Light and Elle. I didn't really think about the fact that I'd have to like bring them to the vet, you know what I mean? So like bringing these cats to the vet and they're like, I'm sorry, the cat's name is Elle, just like the letter. And I'm like, that's correct. That is correct.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's sad because you're at the vet, but it's always interesting when you're at the vet to look at the sign-in sheet and see all the names of the animals. Like the really boring, mundane ones, but then like, that person's a geek. I know that one.
Yeah. Because I think with pets, you're more likely to just like really go all out and just be like, this is my cat. his name is Vegeta. You know what I
Right,
mean?
mhm.
Like I probably wouldn't name a child Vegeta, but like a cat, sure,
Yes.
totally.
And I actually have a lot of notes like that in this book for characters who are like, well, I can't necessarily recommend this for
But you name a
human being.
child this,
Right.
yeah.
But definitely an animal would be good for this name.
Yeah, I remember like when my aunt was naming my cousins Henry and Drew, she really wanted them to, she was like, anytime I think about naming a child, I think about them having to go to a job interview with that name. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So it's like when she's for example, so my cousin Drew, his name is actually Andrew, but he goes by Drew. But yeah, so it's funny to be like, oh, to think like I'm a big fan of names that are just a little bit unusual, but totally like fit into, don't seem odd or like too literal, you know, like I think like Griffin is a great name for a guy.
Sure. Yeah.
Because like it's unusual, but it's not,
right, but it's still, it still sounds within the realm of normal.
Exactly. Within the realm of normal. That's as far as people go. That's what I think. I see my friend Joey in the chat, and I know his baby is named Luke, which again, like that, like certainly Luke Skywalker, but again, like Luke is Luke is like a name that totally fits in.
Yes. Yeah. And then of course, like nowadays, you can just spell things differently and have things sound however you want. So lots of options. As far as
when I was naming characters in the fantasy novel I was planning to write when I was 17, I was a big fan of like spelling names strangely. So it was like there was a character named Kevin, but it was like Kevan.
Hey, that works. That's great.
Yep. So, well, what else have you? What have you got planned for today, Scott, for your launch party?
We're just kind of hanging out and chatting. So, you know what? You can give me your unicorn name. This is a fun experiment.
Oh, what?
So it's something that I came across on social media, like I've been telling people years ago. But I just, for some reason, it tickles my fancy. So you have to take every vowel in your name.
Oh my God, there's so many vowels. Okay. Oh, this is like the oob thing that I did the other day when I discovered that Andy has the funniest oob name of all. It's like Oobnadoob.
So yeah, I'm asking all. I forgot to do with Megan, who's on before you. But
okay, just my first name or all my names.
You go as far as as deep into the mythology as you would like.
Well, my first name would be Inkle-Minkle.
Perfect.
And then it would be Finkel. Yep.
I guess so.
Yep. That's MFA right there.
and I don't know why, but I get such a kick out of that one because there are so many of these silly name things out there, but I really like that one.
Yeah, that's pretty funny.
Oh, you'll appreciate it. So yeah, I've been going back to what we were talking about characters who are like known by their last names or by their first names. So for writing the book, I had to decide like characters who are typically known by last name. Do I include that? Do I refer to them as their first name, even if most people don't know it? So I talked about some Star Wars examples before that I'm sure you're familiar with.
Yes.
Like Admiral Akbar.
Yeah.
The vast majority of people don't know that his first name is Gial. So I have an Akbar entry to talk about him.
Nice.
But I do mention that yes, his first name is
actually Gial.
And then of course, like characters that only very recently in novelizations have we found out their first name, like Palpatine. His first name is Sheev. Okay, great.
Cool.
So things
that's
like
so
that.
Funny.
But of course, like Ripley, I include Ripley as an entry, and then also talk about her under Ellen. What was the other one? Oh, like Uhura from Star Trek is really cool because for so long she did not have a first name, even though novelists played with it a little bit, but there wasn't a canonical one until relatively recently. And then, of course, they established it for everybody in the J.J. Abrams movies. So,
yes.
So she gets 2 entries in the book as well.
As she should.
Yes, 100%. Cool.
Yeah.
So we're just hanging out, talking about the book stuff, talking about talking about names. Just
Yeah. Are you just kind of going through the book, covering some of the names as we go in?
A little bit,
there?
yeah. Just talking about things in general, and like if something hits me, or we have that cool command in chat, so it'll show some random names from the book, and then like oh yeah, let me talk about that one.
Yeah.
Or like some of the really interesting things were characters that we only know in movies or whatever by their last name or by a nickname, and then all the research I had to do to try to find out, do they have a first name and what is it? Or if there's conflicting or contradictory sources for it, which is kind of cool.
Do you have a relationship with your name?
Not a lot, actually. I mean, talking about sort of like long names that you can shorten and do things with. My name is it's just Scott. There's not much you can do with it.
Yeah.
The only really interesting thing about my name growing up was that my parents decided, I think like before I was born, that my name was going to be Scott, and nobody would ever call me Scotty.
Oh.
So they laid down the law. Whenever I was little, if anybody called me Scotty, my mom especially would say, nope, his name is Scott. That's it.
Interesting.
So now, like some people, like I don't know if Uzi, if you're in the chat room, but like Uzi will refer to me as Scotty in chat, and that's fine. Like I don't have anything against it.
Oh, of course, yeah, that's so funny though.
But like growing up, that was just never a part of my life.
Yeah, there was one of the drivers at Universal when I was working there. He his name is Michael, and he really only went by Michael. Like he was not Mike.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, and it's an interesting choice, and that it does say something different. One thing that I do in the book is for some of those names, for like I do have a separate entry for Michael and Mike, or I think it's like Mike/Mikey. Because sometimes like characters are definitely a Michael or definitely a Mike, and that's like that's part of their inherent character.
Oh no, totally. Yeah, I think that a Michael that insists on going by Michael has a very different personality than a Mike.
Yeah. And Wally's versus Walter's are a little bit different.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's interesting too, like the different nicknames that come out of names regionally. Because for example, going back to my cousins, Henry and Andrew, in the UK, they would certainly be called Hank and Andy. Whereas like, I think that, I mean, Hank is still definitely a nickname for Henry, but I think it's a little outdated in the US. Like it's kind of, people tend to not call young Henrys Hanks. And like Andy is still, I would say that Andy is still a popular name for Andrew, but that is like the number one in the UK is Andy as opposed to Drew. Drew is very American.
Right. Yeah. And then like Hal being short for Harold. Like you don't hear those much these days.
Yeah. But, and like Hal is such a different personality than Harold, It's so interesting.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, man.
Well, I don't want to keep you. I know you are a very busy person with lots of cool things going on.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for stopping by.
Of course. Yeah. Thank you for having me. This was so fun. Everyone buy Scott's book.
I would appreciate that. Or just, share the news. Tell everybody you know.
Yeah. Tell people you know. Tell other people like me who agonize for 3 hours over naming a character in a game.
I know. So that's been a theme with people that we've been talking to. Names are so important for characters.
Yeah.
I mean, you can roll all the stats and write all the numbers, but it's all about the name, because that's who you're going to be, thinking about. You're inhabiting this world. Yeah.
I get so stressed out. Or sometimes like it's interesting though, because I feel like with some of the tabletop RPG characters I've played, the name came to me and then I was like, okay, I'm going to build a character around this name. The first one that comes to mind for me is in the Cthulhu campaign we did at Hyper. Not the first one, but the second one. The character I played was named Florence Abernathy. It was 20s Call of Cthulhu. And her name came to me, and then I was like, oh, I know who this girl is. I was like, okay, I love, like, this is such a good, I feel like time period appropriate name. And like, I built this character around her name. And it's super funny because like in that case, the name came first, and she's far and away my favorite character of all the ones I played in the He Left It Dead Cthulhu anthology. So yeah.
Cool.
But yeah, anyway, listen, Scott, your book is going to be a major reference in my life. Next time I need to name a character, I'm just gonna like really dive in there and I will find it, and I will be confident that I'm making the right decision thanks to your expertise.
Well, thank you. And your copy is on its way to you.
Yes.
I was hoping it would have been here by today.
That's all right. No, I'm super excited to get it and post about it and just let everybody know where they can get it. And yeah, thanks, Scott.
Well, thank you so much.
All right. Have a good rest of your day.
All right. You too.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Cool. Well, that was fun. I told you I was going to have some good guests today. Hold on, I have some emails coming through. I just want to make sure it's something I need to address this moment. Doesn't look like. Okay, cool. Neat. All right, let me catch up on some chat because I saw some interesting messages that I do want to note. Yeah, Rand is a cool name. They're obviously it can be short for Randolph, and it can be like an alternate version of some other names, but there are definitely characters out there who have just been named Rand, mainly from Robotech, but there are definitely some other ones. Yes, and Arendinsk, you mentioned Michael Burnham. So I've talked before a lot, and I even have Rolf. Rolf is a good one. At the beginning of my book, I made sure this was a very important thing for me, especially as I got further on in the writing process and thinking. I've talked about this a couple times before, though, that I've grown as a person in the last 6 years or so. My writing has changed a little bit over time, maybe, hopefully for the better. But things in your life become more important. You feel differently about things. I can give a couple examples about that. But I included a disclaimer here at the beginning. It gets its own separate page. And essentially what it says is that unless you're talking about names in an ancient setting, so like where the names originated, right? Because names, obviously, they came from something specific. Or if you're talking about a language other than English that has specific forms in the language that have genders, as far as like gender in the language, other than those places, names do not have inherent genders or identities attached to them. You can use any name. You, as anybody who's watching, who's listening, you or your children or your pets or whatever you want, any name of this can be used for a boy, a girl, a trans person, a non-binary person, someone who's changing from one thing to another. Please absolutely be comfortable using whatever it is that you like. For the purposes of this book as a baby naming book, we did go with some conventions as far as how the book is laid out. It is laid out in boys and girls names to have a way of organizing them. It was just sort of how the book was put together. And I do refer to sort of boys and girls as far as like what your son might be like if you give him the name, but that's in reference to how he might turn out to be like these other characters who've had the name. And again, in that section, those would be male characters. So the way the book is organized and the way some of it is written is about the characters having the names. So there is some gendered language there, but I did want to make a point to say that, look, you can name anybody anything. And yes, there are some really cool examples in the geek works that I talk about where names are used for genders that they're not typically used for. And those are some of my favorite things to talk about. And Eridens brought up Michael Burnham in Star Trek Discovery. And yes, that is a great example. The showrunner for Discovery, or at least, producer, whatever he ended up being, but Fuller, he he really likes in his works to have names of characters that are traditionally used for the other gender and switches it up. So Michael Burnham was actually one of the later entries that I asked, oh, can I get a couple of these last ones in there? And when there are names that have been used by characters of different genders in these works, I always note that in the book. I say, this specifically has been presented as a unisex name. There are lots of names that appear both in the boys and girls sections because of that. So yeah, that's always good. Yeah, definitely Hanks in here. Let's see. So Katu, there were wow, how were there so many Alexes? What happened the year before you were all born that made everybody want to name their kids Alex? There's something going on there. But why? I wonder why. In doing the research for this, and then when you pitch a book to publishers or agents, you have to go through all of these crazy hoops, and you have to put together all of this information, these packages. And one of the things that was a benefit to me is that right before I was doing all of that stuff, an article had come out on some pop culture website, but about how the names of some popular characters at that time were rising in popularity of people actually naming their kids that. And it was kind of, they weren't rising all that quickly, but it was more like, hey, there's there's the Deadpool movie, and there are actually some people in the United States naming their kid Wade. So it was more like that. But I was able to link to that and say, hey, look, people are talking about names of characters actually being used for their children. But I did find out that if you look at and you can find this information is mostly easily found, publicly available, all these census records and things. But the name Wade used to be, like, back in I think it was the 60s, but it used to be fairly popular in the United States. And then it dropped off of every successive year, pretty much. And then if you look at the year that Deadpool came out and the year after, it had a huge jump, proportionally in its popularity. So that's always cool to see things like that. So yeah, so I just wonder if there was something, Solkatu, just something in the air that there's got to be some reason why everybody was naming their kids Alex. Let's see. Oh, Wilder, I'm reading your note about your name. Oh, that's funny. So both of the names were it. Yeah. And you know what? I don't necessarily talk about this a lot, because in a lot of ways I feel like it's not my place to say it, but for sure, if you are, or if you know somebody who is going through changes in your or their life, and you are looking to redefine yourself and looking for a new name, or again, somebody who is looking for a new name, I'd like to think that this could help too. Because I know that people go through different things. Some people end up really disliking their birth name for many, many different reasons and are looking for something different. So yeah, that could be helpful. Let's see. Yeah, and obviously, like, family names, some people have the tradition of sort of reusing the same names throughout their families. My wife's family is like that. There are a lot of Kevins and Sean's in their family. Yes. Yeah, I'm just sorry. I'm catching up on chat. Cool. Yeah, but Solkatu, that's almost an argument. That's, again, why, like, there was some reason why Alex was in the air if people were naming their boys and their girls with that name. Oh, that's fascinating. I'd love to dig in that more and try to figure out why that came to be. Oh, thank you, James J. Pistol. Wow. Yeah. Sorry, I'm just catching up on all of the great things. Yeah. A lot. So there are very interesting naming traditions out there for families, depending on your. I mean, it could be anything, right? It could be where your family originally is from, as far as locale, as far as just religions, or all of these different things. In my case, in particular, um, so my family is Jewish, and the tradition that we follow, that my family follows, is that when a baby is born, you name the baby in honor of somebody in your family who has passed away, but you don't give the baby the same name. You give the baby a different name with the same first initial. So I am named after a great aunt, Sarah. So I have obviously the same. It's where I got S for Scott, and for our children. So yeah, Benjamin is named for my father, Bernard, and then Maximilian is named for my wife's father, who was Mark. Um, so in that case, that was another reason why. I'm going to do a little bit of a tangent. So how this book came to be, I've talked about this before, but if I know there are some new people here, then maybe you'd like to hear that name too. Aurora is a great name, and it is in the book. So how did this book come to be? It's not a very long story, but welcome, Darrow. Thank you for the host. How's it going? Come in and celebrate with us. Yeah, so when we were pregnant with our first son, we were very interested in. We had very long talks about what names we like, what names we could think of. Pretty early on, we figured out that he would be named in honor of my father, so he would have a B name. But we were like, oh my goodness, what B names are out there? And of course, you can go online, you can find lists of names and see all of the options. But we're like, well, what characters have had these names? What properties have these names appeared in? And you can do a lot of internet research to find those things out. But we were looking for a book that would give us all the information all in one place, and we couldn't really find one. There had been a couple of books that sort of did that, but there was one book that was very narrowly just science fiction, and it didn't have that many names in it. So we were talking about it on a car ride. My wife turned to me and she said, well, write it. And I said, okay. And so I did. So that's where it came from. So yeah, we were, for both of our kids, again, we knew who we were honoring as far as the first initial. So we were like, okay, well, now we need to find all of the names that have that initial, and then find out which ones we like. So for our first son, for Benjamin, my wife and I, we each had another B name that we liked, that we like to think he could have been in another world. So my wife liked Bastion, which you may know from Neverending Story, some other places. Bastion is in the book. Separate entries in the book for Bastion and Sebastian. Obviously, Bastion is a variant or short form of Sebastian, but they are very different characters who have those names. I liked the name Barry. Barry is a great Flash character, and there have been some other Barrys out there, but we both thankfully liked Benjamin, and that is the name that we chose. Aurora's in there. I think I have all of the main X-Men and a lot of the more random minor ones in there. Oh, interesting. Naming after the day the baby's born, for the saint of that day. That's an interesting tradition. Yes, enter for the giveaway. And yes, also if you would like to I won't add the command right now because we're in the middle of something else. So yes, Bastion is also the name of some bad guys out there. Oh, Carlos, so you actually have someone named after the Neverending Story. That's neat. Yeah, it's always cool. I know several people who have named children after specific characters. Yes, thank you for anybody who is ordering books. You can. We have an incentive where you can purchase a book directly through me, and I will sign it and mail it to you. Unfortunately, my notifications aren't working, so I'll try to figure that out this afternoon and have that on for tonight when I come back to stream tonight. Hopefully, I can get that working, because that'd be cool to hear the notifications if there are any messages. But fortunately, it's not working right now. Oh, yep. Thank you, Pete. There's the incentive. Yeah, no, definitely. I know of that that tradition of naming after saints. There are. Now I'm not I'm not very well familiar with saints, but I'm sure a lot of saint names are in the book. There are a ton of names that I go and look at, and it's like, oh, another biblical Hebrew name, another biblical Hebrew name. Okay, so yeah, there are lots of those in here. Yeah. Now again, there are, for a lot of people, if you have a name that's common, I don't want to say standard, but a common name, you will eventually come across characters with your name, and some you will like and some you will not. So for Sebastians out there who aren't a fan of Neverending Story, or again that connection that a lot of people will make when they first hear it, that can be a little bit of a bummer. Are there any prince-like names or just a symbol in the book? Sadly, no. I wish that would be cool if I could have done that, but no, just real names that are written out in some ways. I do like to talk about names that you that have like really crazy long forms, and I always try to include those in the book wherever possible. Things like Thrawn in Star Wars, it's Mithraundo, something like that. Lilu in The Fifth Element has a ridiculously long, crazy name. Noranti in Farscape. Also, both of the female characters who came in toward the end of the series had really long, crazy names that were shortened. But yeah, I talk about those. Trinity is in the book. I believe. I know I looked it up. I'm pretty sure she's in the book. Yes. Although, of course, in The Matrix, Trinity is not her actual name, but I mean, she's known by Trinity. I had to include Trinity in the book. We have okay. I heard a fall, but no crying, so I think everything's okay. 10,000 Catholic saints. Wow, that's. Some of them must have the same names, though, right? Are there over 10,000 unique names among the saints? That's crazy. Let's see. Yeah. So, what else? I was very proud of myself. Every letter has at least one name in the book. One name both for girls and boys' names. Sometimes it is just the one, but there is at least one for everything. There's only, like, for Q is tough, and again, just because of how stories go, there are more male names than, again, traditionally there are more male names than female, just because that's how the characters end up. But in some entries there are more girls' names than boys for a couple of them, but in general, like for girls Q, I really only did come across Quinn, but there are some more boys' names that start with Q. Hold on, getting a message. All right, not important. Yeah, so yeah, again, like the differences between characters' names and their nicknames and what they go by in these stories, it was kind of tough to figure out what to put in there and what to emphasize. Oh, I love super weird names. I've got some super weird, like real names. I mean, I talk about things like, Zechariah, and again, at one point those were not super weird names, but nowadays if you ran into a Zechariah, I think you might be taken aback a little bit. And yeah, arrogance. It's always an interesting conversation about, again, redefining yourself and what is sort of, there are kind of like two paths to take when you redefine yourself, right? Either your appearance or your name, really, because both are aspects of your personality, your identity. But yeah, certainly your name. If you're trying to either move away from something or move towards something, changing your name is huge. Riley Improv, thank you so much for the subscription. A lot of cool names in Riley Improv stuff. Ripley Improv stuff, sorry, rather. Tired. Ripley Improv. Ripley's in the book. Ripley, I know, I'm sorry. It's been a lot of names this morning. A lot of names. Ripley. Everybody follow Ripley Improv. I can speak. Pa, pa, pa. Anybody else here in chat named after something specific or someone specific? Or do any of you have no idea where your parents got your name? That's also an interesting conversation. And there are definitely some people out there like that. Like either their parents just never told them, or they're just like, yeah, we just like randomly heard this one day and we thought it was neat. Yes, Ellen Ripley for Ripley Improv. And again, both Ellen and Ripley are in the book because I got to talk about Ripley as Ripley. Yes, we did talk about characters who go by their last names in things, but are really known by their last names. So Katsu, your middle name is your grandmother's maiden name. That's cool. But yeah, my father's middle name was his mother's maiden name. So yeah, my family has done some of that as well. Compound name of the apostle. Ooh, interesting. That's cool. Yeah, there are so many interesting naming traditions all around the world, different places, different religions. Yeah, whether you name after somebody living, somebody who has passed away, yeah, like a saint or some other figure in your religion or your society. It's cool. Alex was just plucked from the hive mind. It clearly it was. We got to do some research. We could. It seems like we could write a research paper on this. Yeah, and then also middle names. We could do a whole thing on middle names, right? There are lots of people out there who do not have a middle name for one reason or another, and those are always good. Yeah, and then what was the other thing I was going to say? Oh, do any of you have names that you? This is rarer these days, but any of you have names that you didn't actually know what your full name is or was on your birth certificate, and you found out later? Because that's a cool thing that I've heard from several people who that has happened to. Yes, lurkers, come on out for the giveaway. Simply, you were named after your grandfather. Interesting. Rob Vegas, that's cool. Daryl, yeah, yeah. There's some great names that are acronyms. Let's see. It looks like we have a new guest coming in. Hi.
Hi.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can. Yes.
Is there? Oh, there might be an echo.
No, it's good on my end.
You know what I decided?
What?
That it's worth having this whole stream become it in order to have music. You need music.
I need music. That's like a whole level of sophistication for streaming that I don't know if I'm up to.
No, I wonder if I played it right now, if you would hear it. That's my thought process.
Oh, I see.
Hold on. You probably can't hear that, right?
I can hear it.
So then they can. We're just gonna listen to some music. It's early. It was distracting. We could.
No, it's fine. I'm just catching up on chat. Zenblade, that's super cool. That you saw. Yeah, and that's another thing too. Like if you like a character, or if you like a a TV show or a movie, not only do you have the actual characters that could have interesting names, but if you follow that through to the actors and all of the other people that you see in the credits, there are so many more names that are there to pull from and take inspiration from. So how are you doing this morning, Jessica?
Me? I just realized that I thought you were going to have guests on right now. So since you don't, I could jump in now.
Of course, yeah. We've had Megan, a friend of mine, Megan Caves-Kellerman, and Emma was here a little while ago, which was neat.
Awesome.
Yeah. All right.
How's it going?
So
how much fun are you having?
it's great. We're having a lot of fun. Just talking about stuff. So there is one thing I need you to do.
No.
The first thing that I'm going to ask you to do.
No.
I want to know. You may need a piece of paper. I want to know your unicorn name. So I just put it in. I just put the instructions in the chat. Oh my goodness! Thank you so much for the gift subs and the bits, Fadir. Thank you so much. Man, I love gift subs. We got gift subs that are so nice.
That is so cool.
So
who did it?
It says anonymous, so I do not know.
Ooh.
Oh, and then I've got the new emote, the cool baby from the cover.
Is it up?
Yes.
Speaking of.
Yeah, I can just have emotes immediately now because I'm a trusted
they made a mistake by doing the same with me.
Twitch or whatever. Yeah.
Hold on, I need to re-up my subscription.
Hype train. Oh my goodness.
I was surprised that I wasn't. Oh, we're in a hype train now. Of course we
I guess so. You'll have a limited time to earn exclusive emotes. That hype train stuff, sometimes it scares me. It makes me nervous.
Why?
But I don't know. It's like, what do I need to do? What do I have to do right now?
This is why we need music. Hold on, we need to hype train.
Yeah.
Fuck.
I totally didn't even think about music.
We don't need it. But
there we go.
Hype train.
Yes. Okay, but I need your unicorn name.
It's okay, fine, Scott.
Oh, and then what is this command? Yes. Okay. Cool. So the artist my publisher had the graphic designer there made the overall layout for the book, but then a friend of ours, a local artist and friend of mine, did the actual baby who's on there, and it's great. He's cute. He is a good baby. Yes.
You did not put it in there.
I didn't put what?
In the unicorn name?
I did. I think it's already gone past.
It should in the private chat.
Oh, I can do that too. Sorry.
I'm sorry. I thought that's what you meant.
I didn't. Private chat.
When we stop being friends, right?
Well, hold on. Now I need to actually get the. Why do you have to make everything so complicated?
Me? Oh, tell us your name. Change all the vowels.
There you go.
Oh my God. Skinklet, Wrinkle, Binklin. Oh my God, Reddit Funk.
Whoa. Oh, thank you so much for those gift subs.
Gracious.
That's so great.
Wow.
Look at that. Whoa. We just hit the hype train hit a new something. Hype. There are children running around my house.
This is very exciting.
This is very
exciting. And so all
exciting.
people have to do to keep it going is resub, sub, or use bits.
Right.
That's very exciting.
Very cool. Thank you all so much.
Very exciting.
And we're about to hear Jessica's unicorn name.
Are we?
And like I said, you may need a piece of paper to figure this out. But yeah, mine again. I have a short first name, a slightly longer last name, so mine is pretty straightforward. Skinklet Wrinkle Binklin is mine. It's so dumb, but I think this one is so funny. Everybody's names turn out to be ridiculous. First
my
Friday
God,
Fun.
this is
You
awesome.
are awesome. Thank you so much. And
Who
if
created this?
I saw it on social media years ago, and I was like, this is a cool thing. I'm getting a little bit of an echo of me on you, so I think that's
I'll put a
okay.
headphone.
We just want to be as professional as we can.
Whatever.
And if you are in chat right now and you have not shared your unicorn name, please do so now. And we're about to hear the best one of all.
Yeah, honestly. Okay.
I mean, so it will be Jinkles.
No, hold on. Hold on.
Oh yeah, Pete has a really good one.
Oh God.
Pinkle Tinkle.
Oh, that's
so
funny.
dirty.
That's funny. Jinkles, Inkles, Sinkles, Vinkler, Dinkle.
Nice.
Jinkles, Inkles, Kinkles, Jinkles, Inkles, Kinkles, Vinkler, Dinkle.
See, it's so dumb, but it's so funny. I love it.
I have to write it. It's just too much. Hold on. Jinkless, Inkle, Kinkle, Vinkler, Dinkle. I feel like that's something you got to say to like warm your mouth up. Oh, I forgot the Linkle.
Oh, Jay Pistol, Jinkle Minkles. I like that one.
Jinkle Minkles. That's funny.
It's dumb, but I don't know. I always get a kick out of this one.
Yeah, no, it's silly.
I recently just came across it in a Facebook memory, and I was like, "Oh my god, I got to do this on my book launch stream."
Yeah, I love how the universe kind of directs you back to the thing that like serves you. You know.
Yeah.
If you don't remember something, there's a reason. You know. I think.
Interesting. Sure. Yeah. Frinkly.
So,
Winkle Winklets. Yes.
So I came in hot with different namesakes.
Yes.
So Lady Jessica, as we know.
Sure.
From our history together and shared interest in Dune. I am technically named after her. I recently learned that I wasn't planned. I think I knew that, but they weren't married before they had me, and I don't care, but they cared.
Sure.
And my dad, they didn't get the. I think because it was all late, like whether he was going to marry her or not, they didn't get like an ultrasound to see if I was a boy or a girl, or they didn't want to know. Okay. And my dad's Italian, which ends up serving the Verdi part of this story, but you can stop me if it's boring. So, the Italians were like, "It's a boy, you're carrying a boy."
Sure.
You know? It was just, you're going to have a patriarch. There's no way. Out comes a little vagina. And my dad immediately was like, "I don't even want to touch it. Fuck that thing." Didn't know what to do. And it was more like that he puts it, that it was like, "You were just so little and fragile. I didn't know what to do." Which is kind of weird because he has 3 sisters.
Okay.
So it's not like he's the oldest of them. So it's not like he didn't see a little baby before. Anyway, I think he was more like, "I can't believe I have a daughter with this woman." So I think my mother knew a Lynn Jessica, and in her office building. And so I think my mom was like, "Well, we could name her Jessica Lynn or something." And I think she might have known that Jessica was a name in Dune, or vice versa, or something, or that when my dad heard Jessica, it turned him around to the idea that, well, there's some way I could pass on a legacy to this idiot, you know. And so my mom said it took him about 3 months to warm up to being like really lovely with me. Like one day she saw him like in the bedroom, like playing and
like actually touching you, acknowledging your existence.
Yes, obviously I have problems. So That's Jessica. I don't. So Lynn
Okay.
only is derivative of that woman's name. So the fact that it worked well together. I'm turning
Sure.
off the alarm that told me to go onto your stream because
Okay.
there it is right there.
Success.
I'm here. No, I was supposed to be sign in at 11:25. Anyway,
It's all good.
Anyway, so we'll jump to no, it's actually more interesting. It's less interesting. Saint Clair is my chosen Catholic name.
Okay.
So when you get confirmed in the Catholic religion, you choose a saint that as a namesake.
Okay.
And so I chose Saint Clair of Assisi.
Okay.
Who followed Francis of Assisi blindly because he loved him, but he didn't want to be with any women. So he just chose to give her life to God too, just so she could be around him in some capacity. And he was a rich Italian who gave up all of his wealth in order to live the life of Jesus. And this was us. I think it was like the Vatican trying to appeal to kids. It was like the saint of TV, which is so dumb. The way that they made her a saint was on her deathbed. I believe Mary came to her, or like another saint came to her, so she saw them. So they called her the saint of TV.
Interesting. Okay.
I'm sure that languaging has been cleared up since. But so I was like, oh, I want to be on TV. So I'll be. But also, I chose her because of like the hopeless romantic in me, and I knew that at 13, so it was perfect. So let's go to the last part of the name. Giuseppe Verdi is a classic. Wrote music.
Composer.
Composer. He was a composer, which I couldn't name anything by him if I tried, but it's not our real last name.
Ooh, drama.
And I've always felt weird about it because it's not our real last name. And everyone would be like, are you related to the man? And my parents, to the point, like, didn't even tell us it wasn't our last name. And so they're like, yes. Okay. Like, so I remember going into middle school and people go, oh, Giuseppe Verdi, are you related? I'm like, probably. And totally not.
Okay.
But my grandfather was abandoned by his dad. And when he left home, when my grandfather left home, obviously hating the man who spawned him, he met a man named Father Verdi and took his last name. Or legally changed his last name.
Right.
So that was interesting when you were talking about right before I got on how if you wanted to alter your identity one way would be visibly, right?
Yeah.
Your interest or your name would be one way. Like Aquafina talks about how it wasn't until that name changed for her that she felt okay to be herself, like her weirdo self.
Yeah.
It gave her like that power to do that.
Yeah. Cool.
Have you sold any books yet?
Yes. Yes, we have.
Well, my goal is to get 2 sold right now.
Okay.
We're gonna
do it.
What's gonna happen is I'm gonna buy one.
Okay.
And you're gonna give it away.
Okay. Okay.
And you're gonna sign it.
Yes.
And then you're also going to sell one. I know it.
Okay. I like that plan. Unfortunately, something I didn't turn on something, so we're not getting notifications even in chat, which is a bummer, but I'm going to try to figure that out and have it on tonight when I come back.
I thought it said some things like.
Well, it says some things, but it's not giving me Streamlabs notifications, which is a bummer.
Do you have Streamlabs up?
I do. Yeah, so I can see things, but it's not making notifications, which makes it less exciting. But we're keeping track of everything. Pete has detailed notes about everything that is happening, and we are good. Cool. Yeah, no, that's I don't know that a lot of people have as many, have as much of a connection to all of their different parts of their name as you do. That's neat. Like where everything comes from, and
it is kind of cool, and it's amazing how I always felt weird about Verdi, and then was oddly confirmed about that when I learned that it wasn't our real last name. But they don't hate it. And it's certainly like not an uncommon-ish name. I believe there's people in India that also have Verdi as a last name. Or at least I've met some people of that culture sharing, you know, if I were to meet somebody on the street, it would be of Indian descent or Pakistani. So, and then like I actually just got messaged on Instagram the other day, hey, name twin. There's a Jess Verdi who also wrote a book who the reason I can't be Jessica Verdi in SAG is because of this woman, because she has Jessica Verdi on lock in SAG. So I had to do Jessica Lynn, which is not a problem. But anyway, so I'm just gonna send you $30. Is that what are you charging for the book?
35 because it includes shipping. It's all included.
Great. Let's do a giveaway in the chat right now.
Okay.
I'll send you the money right now.
Okay. What was I going to ask you? Oh, so here's something I've been asking people who've come on, which is kind of a fun thing. Tell us about some of the names of characters that you have played.
Ooh.
And this can be in anything, because you obviously have played characters all over the place.
That's fascinating. Okay. Yeah. Do they know about the blood curdling?
No.
Do we want to talk about that?
Well, you want to give me a minute, and I mean I can. I'll do a little lead into it.
Do whatever you want.
Okay.
I was watching some episodes last night, so it's fresh on the mind. Yeah.
Cool. I will. Okay, so this is something that I haven't talked about explicitly. I dropped a little bit of a hint, a little breadcrumbs along the way. So in writing this massive tome, I was able to put in some let's say personal references, some things very close to home, some vanity entries, you might say. So all of the main characters from Blood Curdling Tales from the Loop / Blood Curdling Tales in Time, those characters are referenced in this book. They're So we've got Ricky and Ellie and Chrissy and Leanne and Ethan and Kendra. So they're all in there, which
so
which
exciting.
I thought was pretty cool. And then there are even beyond that, there are a couple of other Easter eggs in there for people who are.
What's the Dingle? Is Dingle in there?
No. And again, like all the blood curdling characters, like I don't actually talk about them, but they are references under those names, or like similar names where I could kind of cram them in. Yeah, sadly no Dingle, but there is. I love that Nightbot command where it just gives like some random names from the book. That's cool.
Oh, that's cool.
Because sometimes I see it, I'm like, oh yeah, I wrote that one. We're trying to think of like, what did I write for that one? But yeah.
That's very cool. Nightbot got lit. Yeah, when you told me that. So actually, to further flood the excitement of that, let me share one additional thing.
Okay. Where's she going?
You brought us all to a pizza parlor before the world ended. And I kind of knew you were doing this, but no one else knew. Mm-hmm. And you got Hero Forge characters made of us, and you painted them, and then you gave it to us. And you made me the Ice Queen. Hold on. Woo.
It refuses to focus.
It's because I'm in.
I was going to say, as usual, Jessica's pulling focus.
Yeah, seriously. Fuck, dude.
It writes itself.
This dynamic never changes.
There's a thing where if you put your hand behind it and cover up then sometimes it'll focus on what's in front. Oh, there we go. It did it for a second.
It sure did. I'm
really
loose.
It did it for a second again.
It just doesn't wanna.
No, they get the gist.
I'll take a picture and post it.
But yes, I get very attached to shows that I'm on, especially when they're a long time. And my life over the last 10 years has not necessarily been easy. There have been some like things that I've gone through, and being on these shows have really helped me get through some things. So yeah, when the shows are over, I tend to do something. I try to do something nice for the people that I've been on shows with, because it makes me feel good doing that.
I tell this often, and I say I like when I tell people about our friendship and how lovely it's been to like not only get to know you but be close to you and your family. It's funny to me as being such an extrovert, having amassed introverted friends, and you're not like cripplingly introverted, but when we would go into the game, I like just telling people like, oh, my friend Chris, this is how not Chris, I sent the money to your wife, so I'm thinking Chris. I was just telling my mom too. I was like, I knew he wanted to be my friend when he had a very thoughtful gift already laid out for me in front of my receipt. Like you are the gift giver, and it really does show. Gifts are special, and not everyone that's their love language, right? Actually, I was using it as an example for my mother because she was trying to give me compliments for something I was doing in my house. And I was like, please stop, shut the fuck up. Like, I'm so done. I can't. You said it once. This is now the 5th time. She goes, but your father used to hate when I was like, well, that's not our love language. You didn't understand. And so I was like, well, she's like, what is it then? Because I just didn't get it. But like, we got there. It's like, well, like, here's an example. Scott has gotten me multiple gifts. And that to me is more thoughtful because he's thinking of me when I'm not even around. That's an incredibly now that doesn't resonate with everybody, right?
Sure.
Like, so like if you were to be like, I've made this meticulous thing and I painted it, and that might not be helpful. But I was like, oh, that's very quiet. Actually wants to be my friend. Okay, cool. And also when Ricky liked Chrissy, I was like, oh.
I mean, it seemed natural for the characters.
No, it didn't.
My
character wasn't even thinking about it.
Well, right, but then as
no,
it was
you don't like flirting with characters unless you want to flirt with them. If you don't like,
hey, look,
listen, I'm just saying it's like I don't want to flirt with like certain DMs, so I'm not gonna, you know what I mean? Like, and flirt because like anyway, whatever. Who won?
All good. Nightbot said, Carlos won. Woohoo!
So does Carlos get to tell you what he wants you to say in the signature?
Yes. So yeah, Pete is getting the whispers and will give me that information. Yeah, we're figuring it out.
Awesome.
But yes.
Oh, because I thought I thought you would be like
I was going to, but then we had just not everything fully connected for having everything at hand. So
no, fair.
But I will absolutely do that. I do have a stack of books that are next to me, but
when your next book comes out, we'll know even more. That's exciting, Carlos.
We will always learn. Yes.
But now we need to sell another one before I jump off. So someone has to buy it right now. And I will sign it too.
Wow, it's a 2-for-1. So tell us some of your favorite, the names of some of your favorite characters that you've played.
Oh yeah, you asked me this already. Sorry.
Created.
So I played Nurse Ratchet.
Mm-hmm.
I think she's Millicent. Is that right?
I don't know. Sounds right.
Now they're doing Sarah Paulson, Mildred. They're doing Sarah Paulson's doing a Netflix series about Nurse Ratchet, which is interesting.
That has been in production for years.
Seriously?
Yeah.
But it's probably being released soon then.
So, yeah, it's coming. I think it's supposed to come out by the end of this year.
It's finally. Yeah. Okay, great. Yeah. My friend who directed me in Cuckoo's Nest, like what he thought 5 seasons should look like. Like, hey, this is how I would write it.
Yeah.
you know, he has a very special link with McMurphy. So that was a fun role. Sally Tally is a character from a play called Tally's Folly, and it was a very special experience where basically the guy breaks the first wall at the top going, I have 93 minutes to get this woman to fall in love with me, which is just dumb, crazy. And then he never breaks the fourth wall again. And it's just me and him on this pretty much about abandoned folly, or you know, like boat-esque thing on a river, and two people who want to be together but don't want to tell each other why they shouldn't be together. But the fact that with the things that make them not want to date people are the same things that work together. So and they find that out in 93 minutes. And it's very romantic, but it's also anyway. So that was fun. Maggie from Cat in the Hot Tin Roof is fun. I really enjoyed that character.
So there's some good Maggies out there. Are
there in the book too? And then Hannah was obviously. I feel like Hannah was the pinnacle of like chaotic, misanthropic Jess.
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like, you get to be this now. Because like Chrissy, I don't know that I walked in going, he's going to be a murder hobo, but she turned into one. Sure.
Yep. She certainly did.
There was some bleed through there. But we don't know how people are going to handle what they see death murder. So Hannah was really fun. I really, really liked Hannah. What else? My first role ever, like my first big role, was Lily from a play called Carnival. I think it was made into a movie called Lily.
Interesting.
Yeah. And what else? There's like The Secret Garden, and I was Martha, the nurse.
Ooh. Why did you say that name? The Martha joke from the Batman and Superman movie.
Never.
No? Okay.
I heard it was bad and I didn't watch it.
That's fine. I'm not telling you to watch it. But there was a scene that's supposed to be very serious and very revealing that just came off kind of silly and became like a meme for the movie.
Oh, how weird.
Because they're fighting and Batman is beating up Superman, because he's figured out all the kryptonite stuff. And then Superman, seemingly about to be completely defeated, says, tell, Martha. And then Batman stops and says, why did you say that name? Because, of course, both of their mother's name is Martha.
Oh, God.
So it like shocks them. And then, of course, then they become best friends because why
just not? Because of that?
Pretty much. It's not it's not the best movie. But I do like to say, though, because people make fun of that a lot, but comic book writers, especially in that era and not too long after, they weren't super original. And as I talk about in this book, Mary is the name of a ton of superheroes' mothers and comic book characters, including so that scene between Batman and Superman, we could have had that exact scene happen between Spider-Man and Dr. Octopus because both of their mothers are named Mary. So it's not like Martha's the only goofy, like, hey, both of these connected characters have the same mother's name. It actually happened a lot. So, yeah.
I'm sure there's an element of the fact that those were probably common names anyway. Like,
sure. Yeah.
And I'm sure you've talked about this a little bit too, that certain names elicit certain emotions.
Mm-hmm.
So like I've talked about this on our stream before or elsewhere, probably with you present, like the author who shall not be named writes like Dumbledore and Snape. Yeah. They elicit feelings about characters.
Yes.
Whether they're misleading or not.
Right. Yeah. And that all the cool things you can do with taking a name that either is named after somebody who has there's specific connotation to that character and then playing with it, or taking a name that sounds evil but then trying to flip it on its head. There's some really cool stuff that people do with that.
Yeah, I feel like the right name is what ends up solidifying a character.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, that's a really good point. And I'm sure you've mentioned that too. If I were really, I'm glad to have this book, because if I was like, I don't know what to name this person for a play or like something I'm writing, this would be. And also, as improvisers, I need to be able to name someone right off the bat.
Yeah.
Like we talk about that for Dystopia. If we get an offer, give me an offer, an object. Just tell me any object.
An object? A cube.
I would come in and call you like 3D, or hey 3D, or hey D, or like I would let those things be influencers to name, but you want to have a strong database of names. So this is pretty smart to have, actually.
Well, just open your head with the head key and then put this in. That's from Lock and Key, which all of the main characters are in this book because I love Lock and Key.
One day I'll read it.
And it's so great.
I'm not really reading anything right now.
No, that's fine.
We are.
You don't have to. Well, yeah, I mean, we are, yes. Yes, and I do have many characters referenced in the book from certain series that authors aren't very popular right now. But you know what? Who knew? Actually, this morning, I got a notification that MuggleNet, I forget the exact address. Pete posted in here before, but there's a Harry Potter. That would be a better name, right? A Harry Potter fan site.
It's a missed opportunity to make squatty potties or something.
There you go. Right. Oh, you can mix those together. Brand them.
Teach your baby how to potty. Every time you pee, Harry Potter appears.
I don't know about that. So you're peeing on the character? Maybe we should avoid that.
Hogwarts appears. You're peeing on the characters.
Yeah, I don't know.
You're essentially building in a fetish.
Right. Yeah. Although we have done that with both of our children, actually, more so with Maximilian, trying to encourage him to use the toilet. So we make little things that we put in the toilet for him to pee on. So that is something you do with little boys. So anyway, so there's a MuggleNet is a very, very big, very popular fan community, and they were sent one of my books and they reviewed it, and the reviewer really liked it, which was cool.
I can't imagine they wouldn't. Yeah.
No, it was a short review, but it was really nice, and appreciating the amount of research I did and all the details, which was cool. And that's what I tried to put in there. I was going to ask you. Yeah, I also have a bunch of H.P. Lovecraft characters in my book.
I'm not surprised.
That's a whole other can of worms. What was I going to ask you? Names that you've given to pets over the years.
Okay. Yeah, I knew you were going to ask me about that. And so the first pet, well, that's not true. Okay. I never had a say, really, in the first family pets. We named our first dog Rocky because my brother wanted to name her Rocky after the Three Ninjas movie. Like Rocky loves Emily. So, and she was dumb as rocks, so it really worked. And then I think the Fluke named, I don't remember. There was a dog. Oh, Rocks from Look Who's Talking 3 or something like that. The dog was named Rocks because he had rocks in his hair. Some dumb. Dumb. So that was Rocky. And then we had Bocce, which was named after Andre Bocelli, but I didn't name him. Yeah. But then we called him Bocce because of bocce balls. And then he became botulism because he was awful. So he was just like a fucking Pomeranian full of like anxiety, and it was just awful.
Wow.
Anyway, I had a cat. When I was 3, we were leaving the VFW hall for Christmas, visiting our great uncle. And my dad has a big van. He would like cart us to and from home. Like it was just like the van was very iconic, and unimportant to the story. But as we were walking to the car or the van, there's a cat in the fucking parking lot who starts crying at me. And I looked over to my parents and I'm like, his name is Jax, and he wants to come home with us at 3 or 4 max. So Max Jax. So we take him home. He scratches me across the face. My father probably killed him. It's a whole nother thing. So I wasn't allowed to have cats. But then when I lived with my mom after the divorce, I was leaving my house to go have dinner with my first boyfriend's parents and him and whatever. And I literally tripped over a cat. And I was like, you're mine. And this is my love you. And I named him instantly. I think it was the first thing I had named. His name was Toby. And I think Toby's still alive because I feel like my ex-boyfriend would tell me. But maybe he won't because they took him. My mom didn't want the cat. But Toby, I just love Toby. Toby's so much. It's the perfect name. And I always felt like animals named themselves. And so I was really upset when my brother, the black and white right now, he named him Sylvester after a famous black and white cat. And I am very upset. That's not that fucking cat's name. His name is Douglas. And I've been fought against.
Douglas.
His name is Douglas. But
interesting.
Sylvester. Blue is named Blue because he wasn't ours originally, and we just referred to him as the blue cat, but now he's Blue. And Pepper, I was watching Ripper Street, and there was a character named Pippa, and I had just finished the whole series and found Pepper or was watching it or something, and I remember like looking at her like she was just sitting in the garage, and I looking at her going, fit. Yeah, I was like Pepper, and but I felt like she told me, but she didn't.
Sure.
Why? So I just said why Douglas. There's no why. There's just named himself that, and I also had the final name I will share is I had a Zelda that was a Japanese fighting fish that just broke my heart. Because when it died, it was like my first real brush with like being way super.
Yeah, learning about mortality.
And I was 25.
Wow, no, you lucky person.
No joke.
Wow.
I had to have my mom bury him.
Okay. Well, hey, look, that's. I just want to address Solkatu. Every dwarf in Thorin's company has an entry in this book. I did every single one. Researching what scant details there were in Tolkien, and then the way that Peter Jackson embellished all of those characters for the movies. Every single one is in the book. I'm very proud of that.
I've shared this before, but that first chapter of Hobbit almost made it so that I never read The Lord of the Rings.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
It's so fucking grueling.
Yeah. I've read both Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings books several times, but I'm not a fan of Fellowship of the Ring. I'm not a fan of a lot of the beginning of fantasy epics because so many of them are like that. They're just like you're dealing with young characters who don't know anything about the world. And then it's like the slow gathering of people, and I want to get to the action.
I don't blame you.
Yeah, and that's why I've never read the Wheel of Time series, which is so popular, and I do have some characters from that in my book that I researched, but I've tried a couple of times to get into that series, and I can't get past the first part of the first book. I just can't do it. It's every book is like this big. There are a million of them. My family, they all do it. Thank you so much, Herb657467.
We have literally 3 minutes before I need to jump off before someone can buy the book.
Okay, 3 minutes.
If they don't, we'll never do Dune again. Someone needs to buy the book right now.
Okay.
Or we will never do Dune ever again.
You heard her, folks. That's
ever.
Now I know you have an answer to this question, or you did, But you had a name in mind for a future child.
I do. And I don't know if it's changed or not. No, yes. I don't remember how it out. But all of a sudden, like my eyes went like, Penny. I want a penny. I just wanted a penny. I think there was a couple characters when I was a kid that was named Penny.
Okay.
Including I gotta go. Including
Pennywise, Solkatu asks.
fuck. No. Pee-wee had the girl Penny. There's a claymation Penny, and her eyes were pennies, and they would blink, and I loved
Weird.
Oh,
and then Penny was in.
Its daughter is Penny too.
Well, why am I not using the book and looking this up? Because there are some other Pennies out there.
Yeah, there are.
There's Penny Dreadful, Penny and Dr. Horrible Sing Along. Oh, Inspector Gadget, the girl is Penny. That was a good one. But yeah, there are Pennies all over the place.
Well, those were the two things that influenced me.
Mm-hmm.
I think subconsciously to really feel endeared towards that name, and I'm sure because of like Penny Lane. So then there was a part of me that's like, because I'm Lady Jessica, I should have a Paul. But then if I have a Penny and a Paul, it looks like Paul McCartney is my favorite fucking person, which is not true. I'm a John Lennon person. But you can't name your kid John because everyone's named John.
There are a lot of Johns out there.
Too many Johns. And actually, the best people I've known besides Scott's are Pauls.
Interesting.
Yeah,
okay.
I've been surrounded by a lot of Pauls, and they're wonderful people. So I don't think I'll name a Paul.
Yeah.
But
you have Pauls in your life. That's important.
I have a lot of Pauls. Yeah.
Good.
And I don't know if we've talked about this before. I hated my name. I think I hated my name kind of because there were so many Jessicas.
Okay.
And I was made fun of for like being the smart Jessica. I was like Jessica to the third power. I was never like the Jessica, and all the other Jessicas I met were so mean. And then I'm like, Jessica, what does that sound? It's so stupid. Like Jessica sounds so dumb. But now I like it when people call me Jess. And Herb, I'm gonna block you. Herb said I need to name my child Andy or Lucas.
Or Lucas.
You don't want me to think you're a bot, Herb? Then change your screen name.
I'm sure it has some deep, important meaning.
I doubt it.
Oh my god. Okay, so speaking of names and of screen names, a few days ago I was streaming just one of my normal weekly streams, and somebody came in and followed, and it was Stoneless, like STONELESSBEE, and then a number. And I was like, oh, that's really weird. Like that must have some sort of poetic meaning. And so I asked the person, if you're a real person, can you tell me what that name means, please? And the person said, when I signed up for Xbox Live, that was the random name it just gave me, and I said, okay, I'll stick with that. It has no meaning whatsoever, but I don't know.
But we ascribe meaning to things, right? I think that speaks to our human nature. I was thinking, this is way too philosophical, and I do have to jump off. But I really want to just be a fly on the wall when the first animals realized that they could formulate more phrases than just whatever, and like, how did the naming of things come about and go? Tape. I'm going to call this tape. I'm going. That's a word. Going. Like I just would love to.
Yeah.
Like, because also when you think about it, like all the how influential Latin was. That's really meticulous. And I'm sure you have more information than I do. I'm very disappointed in your chat for not buying a book. I have to go. I literally have to go right now.
You have to go. I know.
I'm sorry.
I know. Hey, look, it's a thing. We're all busy. I'm actually gonna. Oh, and there she goes, folks. She comes, she goes, and that's what happens. what was I? Oh, there was something I was going to say based on something that Jessica brought up, but now I can't remember. We were talking about dwarves and thank you. No, and I greatly appreciate everyone who has purchased a copy, everyone who's going to, or if you just share the news, let other people know. That is super cool too. I know that while I do think the book is for many geeks of all shapes, sizes, and forms, even if you're not having kids, it's not for everybody necessarily. That's totally okay. Yeah, so in just a couple of minutes, in a minute or two, I'm going to head off. This has been amazing. Thank you so much for stopping by, for everybody. Not just yet. I'll end this in just a minute. I'm having a blast. I do not regret staying up late last night and setting some things up. I've been having tweets that have been going out automatically. Took some pictures of stuff last night. I'm going to have about an hour break, and then I'm going to be back over on Facebook. So I'll be live, then I'll have my family. We're going to be talking to some other family members of mine, and you are more than welcome to come and join that. It will be public, so anybody can go and watch that. Facebook.com/NorseMeet. Surprise, surprise. And that'll be at 1 p.m. Pacific, so in 1 hour from now. That'll be for a couple of hours. It's great. And everyone is welcome. And then thank you, Jessica. We will talk to you later. And then I will be on Twitch again right here tonight at 8 p.m. Pacific. And I have several guests lined up for that time slot. Some very cool guests, some other people that you all know and love. Yeah. So that's sort of what's going on here. I can't wait. I scheduled an hour right now to eat some lunch, but I kind of feel like I'm just going to be on Twitter the whole time, catching up on all my notifications. I already got a message from my publisher saying happy book birthday. So that's fun. Yeah. Yeah. So again, thanks everybody for coming on and being part of this. It really means a lot to me. Again, when I started writing this book, I had already been streaming, for a while on Geek and Sundry, or for a little while. When did I start? The years, the days, they go by. I think I was already streaming on Geek and Sundry when I started this. Yes, I think so. I don't know. But anyway, it's been one of the things that have 2015. Okay. Yeah. I don't know. I had so little sleep last night. Numbers are hard. As you know, I ran out of them once. But yeah, just like I've talked about, just the things that have changed even in the span of time since I started writing this book. It's so crazy to think about, and just all of the amazing stuff that's happened with streaming. I am by no means a great and powerful streamer, but the community that the communities that I've been a part of, and the friends that I've met and made via streaming have been so important to my life. Yeah. Thank you so much for all these messages that are coming in. Yeah, I hope you had fun if you hung out today and listened to me just ramble on about names and my book, and talk to other people. Thank you. Yes, the otter's ransom, it will be mine. Sif's hair. All of the cool terms that Norse mythology used for gold. All of the gold. So yeah, like I said, go and send it out on all the social medias. Tell people they should check it out. And yeah, swing on by later on when I'm on the other stuff. All right. Have a great afternoon, and hopefully I'll see everybody later. I'm going to end the broadcast. Okay. I'll see everybody later.